6 o'clock, January 20th, 2014. Time to call this regular school board meeting of the San Felipe Del Rio CISD Board of Trustees to order. Mr. Overfeld, we have a quorum, correct?
Yes, sir, we do.
Let the record show that a quorum of the board members are present, that this meeting's been duly called, and that notice this meeting's been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. At this time, if you'd stand for opening ceremonies. First, a moment of silence. Reflect in your own way. And now the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask for a moment of silence in remembrance of past school trustee John Curtley?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now that we're in session, that brings us to agenda item 4A, which is school board recognition. Apparently there are representatives from all of the schools.
Good evening, board members. My name is Chloe Mills.
I'm Michael Schultz.
I'm Renee Salas. And I'm Isabella Ferguson.
We are the Buena Vista Elementary Student Council officers. On behalf of everyone at Buena Vista, we would like to thank you for your hard work and dedication to our school district. You are dedicated individuals that are committed to continuing the success of our schools and students.
Thank you, Del Rio School Board members, for developing policies and making tough decisions on complex educational and social issues that affect the entire community and impact individual students. We proudly join our educators and community members in saluting you all as you provide vision and leadership to students' achievement, academic programs, district funding, and school facilities.
So hats off to the dedicated men and women who make it possible for local citizens to have a say about education in our communities. We salute the public servants of San Felipe Del Rio Consolidated School District whose dedication and civic responsibility make control of public schools in our community possible. We applaud you for your vision and voice to shape a better tomorrow. Tonight, the Buena Vista Elementary Student Council would like to present you a small token of our appreciation.
Thank you very much. Wow. Oh, boy.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for all your work.
You'll do a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Very much. Very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Keep up the good work, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Yeah, y'all did great.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Awesome job.
Thank you, ma'am. Lady, thank you.
President, along with my fellow officers, would like to thank you for providing leadership and guidance to our district. Your dedication of countless hours and hard work to improve our education is greatly appreciated. Here's a token of appreciation. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you for such a job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, sugar rush.
Awesome job.
Thank you.
Do you know that I used to be the principal because I don't. I used to be.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Thanks, man. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah, right in. This one will be waiting outside. And I went to the dentist this week. I got a broken crown.
Pass me your apple, so I got kids that have full teeth. Dental work is expensive.
Hello, good evening, board members, Dr. Rios, and administrators. My name is Reno Luna, the president of the Ruben Chavita Elementary Student Council. It is with great pleasure that I stand here today in front of you to commend you on a mission well done. This board has a huge job. That job to make decisions that will affect me and all of the other students in Del Rio. Your decisions will pave the road that will lead us to our success. Whether it is a student in pre-K or one about to graduate and start a new chapter in their life, you must ensure that the choices Dr. Rios makes are on the path that will lead us to success. Thank you for all the sacrifices you have made to be part of this school board and serve our community. Here is a small token of appreciation on behalf of Ruben Chavita Elementary. We are looking forward to see you on our campus soon.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I was gonna say, he's got an iPad. Thank you, sir. Good job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great job.
Very colorful. Thank you, man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Do I get one?
You get one?
Here. No, pass this down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Leaders versus followers. When leaders make a mistake, they say, I was wrong. When followers make mistakes, they say, it was my fault. A leader works harder than a follower and has more time. A follower is always too busy to do what is necessary. A leader goes through a problem. A follower goes around it and never gets past it. A leader makes and keeps commitments. A follower makes and forgets promises. A leader says, I'm good, but not as I ought to be. A follower says, I'm not as bad as a lot of other people. Leaders listen. Followers just wait until it's their turn to talk. Leaders respect those who are superior to them and tries to learn something from them. Followers resent those who are superior to them and try to find chinks in their armor. Leaders feel responsible for more than their job. Followers say, I only work here. A leader says, there ought to be a better way to do this. Followers say, that's the way it's always been done here. Members of the school board, thank for and for all you do.
Thank you very much. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Thank you very much. I got one already. I'll take two of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Good job. Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Dr. Rios, Mr. Garabedian, and the members of the board. The student council officers come before you on behalf of our school, Garfield Elementary, to read two poems of appreciation and present you with a token of thanks. My favorite things: the spring breeze, the cool yet warm air, the buzzing bees finding nectar to share, the beautiful flowers and the shining sun, relaxing, dancing, or just having fun. These are just a few of my favorite things, not diamond rings, though I like them too. But most of all, when it comes to the things we appreciate, at the top of the list, there it is. It is you. Thank you, school board, for all you do.
Our definition of school board. As we all know, January is School Board Recognition Month. This is how we define school board. A school board empowers students to excel. A school board is great. A school board leads so students can achieve. A school board makes a powerful difference. A school board shares because they care. A school board works. A school board is composed of citizens leading community schools. A school board helps kids climb higher. A school board leads the way to education. A school board makes a difference for children. A school board represents you. A school board serves the children. For all of this, thank you. Because you help plant many seeds that allow us to bloom, we thank you. Please accept this plant as a token of our appreciation and a reminder that we bloom because of all you do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank Thank you very much.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Another?
Thank you. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, ma'am.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, young lady. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, boy.
Look, I'm a favorite on there too.
You forgot the $100,000 bar.
Awesome.
Good evening, Board President Garabedian, Dr. Rios, and distinguished board members. Hello, my name is Carolina Sanchez, and I am President of North Heights Elementary Student Council. We are here tonight to honor you for your hard work and dedication. They say it takes a village to raise a child. It also takes dedicated people to help keep our school gain full potential. Your time spent making decisions, from the smallest to the largest, is appreciated. Because of you, we are closer to achieving our goals. At North Heights Elementary, we dream, achieve, and believe. Thank you for all you do to help our school and our NHE family to go to new heights. Sincerely, the Student Council of North Heights Elementary. And here is a small token of our appreciation. In celebration of School Board Appreciation Day, we want to let you know that you are extraordinary. We would not trade you for a zillion paydays. We could send the Three Musketeers to search the Milky Way and still not find a magnificent and marvelous student council like you. We wish you mounts of success. P.S. The NHE students want to know if they can have extra recess. Respectfully, the NHE family. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. That is so cute. Thank you, Dr. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Sure. Thank you. That was cool.
That is cool. Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, school board members, and Dr. Rios. I am Alila Rojas, president of the San Felipe Memorial Middle School Student Council. San Felipe Memorial Middle School joins all school districts throughout the state of Texas and our local elementary and secondary schools in saluting our local education leaders during School Board Recognition Month. It takes strong schools to build a strong community, and these ladies and gentlemen devote countless hours to making sure our schools are helping every child learn at a higher level, Dr. Carlos Rios said. They make the tough decisions every month and spend many hours studying education issues and regulations in order to provide the kind of accountability our citizens expect. Dr. Rios said the key work of school boards is to raise student achievement by 1. Creating a vision for what the community of Del Rio wants the school district to be and for making student achievement the top priority. 2. Ensuring progress is measured to be sure that the district's goals are achieved and students are learning at expected levels. And finally, formulating school district policy, approving curricula, maintaining maintaining school facilities, adhering to state and federal education law, concerns with school finance, and spending hours in board trainings. School board members give the Del Rio citizens a voice in education decision making. Even though we make a special effort to show our appreciation in January, their contribution is a year-round commitment. Our appreciation is extended to each one of you for making it possible to participate in the education of our community. We salute you, our San Felipe Del Rio Consolidated Independent School District school board members, for your commitment and civic responsibility for taking local control of our public schools and our community possible. Please join us by saying thank you to our school board members during School Board Recognition Month. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Thank you. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I ran out one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, boy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Dr. Rios, Mr. Garabedian, and school board trustees. I am Taylor Gomez, president for Del Rio Middle School Student Council. On behalf of all our officers and members, along with the entire Del Rio Middle School student body, please allow me to offer our sincerest gratitude for all you do in order to ensure that we, the students of San Felipe Del Rio Consolidated Independent School District, are receiving a top-rate education. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once stated, "The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character. That is a goal of true education." Through your promotion of intensive and critical thinking in our classrooms, you are promoting an education that will allow the students of our district to not only grow in knowledge, but in character, thus preparing us thoroughly for our future endeavors in whatever field we choose, and for this we thank you. Oftentimes, being a school board trustee is a job where your efforts seem to go unnoticed, although we would like to assure you that your dedication and timeless efforts are greatly appreciated by the DRMS family. Once again, thank you very much for all you do to ensure our education and success.
Well, thank you. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you. That was great. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening, School Board President Dr. Rios, school board members, and Superintendent's Cabinet. My name is Janela Rubio, and I am here proudly representing Del Rio Freshman School. Tonight we are here to honor and proclaim our gratitude to you,
President Garabedian, Dr. Keys, Ms. Haynes, Mr. Overfelt, Ms. Lozano, Mr. Mesa, and Mr. Chavira, for your commitment to us, the children of this district.
Good evening. My name is Angela Wakuha, and I am a proud member of Del Rio Freshman School. We sincerely appreciate all your time and effort in making sure the best available educators and resources necessary to achieve educational success. We will now read two poems that convey importance of education in our lives to dedicate them to you on this memorial evening. The Key to Life by Stanley Uga. Education, the light of our life, a gift of academic rife. Education, a key to a bright and rewarding future, a glue that joins our dreams like a soldier. Education, a path to divine success, a smooth drive to our greatness. Education gives our thinking a different appearance and helps drive away all ignorance. Education, it leads us to the path of prosperity and gives our tomorrow a sounding serenity. Education, the process of teaching and learning, which will help us in our future earning. Education, shaping our true characters in the motto. Leading to a successful life is a major factor. Education, the progressive discovery of our true selves, and exploitation of potentials of oneself. Education, a better safeguard of liberty than a standing army, a lifeboat that sees us through our days of stormy. Education, a torch of academic brilliance and backbone of inter-resilience. Education, a key to unlock the golden doors of freedom, a stage of our rise to stardom. Education, a life-sustaining material. Without it, we can't live a life of conjugal. Education, not all bookish knowledge, but it's also about practical knowledge. Education makes a person stand up on its toes and helps a person fight with all of his foes. Education, a fundamental foundation for any country, state, or nation. Education, a thick line between wrong and right, a ladder that takes us to the height where we belong. Education, mother of all professions, that helps acquire all of our possessions. Education is our right, for it is our future that is bright.
The Key to Success by Sophie Martinez. Education is relevant for a person to be successful. Education empowers a person to become a leader. Great opportunities are presented to professionals. The future of a person can be unpredictable if she lacks education. An uneducated person does not have the knowledge of what the future has to offer her. Education is an essential tool to make a pleasant and stable living out of a simple quotidian life. High education contributes to the increases of the graduate in her social economic level. Education is the main factor for one to become wealthy, a millionaire, or even a multimillionaire. Education offers the opportunity for a person to become the owner of a mansion. Education brings one the opportunity to please herself, perhaps getting to travel often to interesting countries, places, or to be the owner of the latest new brand sports car. Education enables one to reach success. Education makes one become influential. Education gives one the opportunity to be at the top with the highest wage. Education gives one self-fulfillment. A thief can take away money, a car, a property from a person, but it's definitely impossible to take education away from someone. Education is worth $10,000, $50,000, or $1 million. One puts its value. Education is certainly the main element to become successful and overall to reach one's dreams or goals. As a token of our appreciation, please accept this sweet treat and cutting board to commemorate School Board Appreciation Month.
Our students and principals of architecture and construction created these cutting boards especially for you. Again, thank you.
In order. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Everything that you all do. Thank you.
That brought me mine. Oh. Yeah, giving that one over.
Good evening. My name is Alondra Martinez. I am Del Rio High School Student Council President. At this time, a group of seniors will be presenting to you a clock as a token of appreciation. You may wonder, why a clock? The clock was chosen to symbolize that you as an elected official gave without a compensation. These dedicated and countless hours provided to students with numerous opportunities, educational experiences, and resources. We hope that this clock will remind you that your dedication to our success does not go unnoticed. The time you gave to SFDRCISD has helped us to achieve our dreams and let us go out into the world with a well-rounded education. Jay Estrin said it best by this quote: "The way we spend our time defines who we are." During my time at DRHS, I have been in student council for 4 years, and I am the current president. I am a member of the National Technical Honor Society and FBLA. In the fall, I am planning to attend Baylor University and major in business. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it very much.
Good evening. During my time at DRHS, I was the sophomore class president, and I am the senior class president this year. I am also the vice president of the National Honor Society. I've played varsity volleyball, where we were the district champs this year. In varsity basketball, I've made first and second team all-district honors, and this year I am the team captain. And in track and field, I was a regional qualifier for hurdles. My name is Zenea Torres, and in the fall, I am planning to attend Incarnate Word University and major in fashion design and marketing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. During my time at Del Rio High School, I have played varsity football for 3 years. I was first team all-district inside middle linebacker for both years. All-state honorable mention linebacker my senior year, and team captain both junior and senior year. My name is Brian Rivera. In the fall, I am planning to attend TCU and major in criminal justice. Thank you for your time.
Congratulations, sir.
Congratulations.
Good evening. During my time at DRHS, I have obtained 32 college hours through dual credit and AP classes. I am a member of the National Honor Society, Student Council, and FBLA, and Robotics, and I am currently ranked number 1 of the senior class. My name is Amelia Ganswai, and in the fall, I am planning to attend the University of Texas at Austin and major in electrical engineering. Thank you for your time.
Congratulations. Awesome. Wonderful. Great job.
Thank you. Good job. Good job.
Keep up the good work.
During my time at DRHS, I was the lead in Grease and Annie. I have been a member of the varsity choir for 4 years and currently the choir president. I made 7th chair for all region choir and competed at state, UIL solo and ensemble. My name is Clarissa Martinez. In the fall, I am planning to attend the University of Texas in San Antonio and major in music. Thank you for your time.
Congratulations, great job.
Good evening. During my time at Del Rio High School, I've been a member of NTHS, FBLA. I compete in UIL academics, and I am the current president of National Honor Society. I am also a programmer for our high school robotics team, and I'm part of the E12 program. My name is Cameron French, and in the fall, I plan to attend Texas A&M to major in computer engineering. And thank you for your time.
During my time at Del Rio High School, I competed in UIL academics for 4 years. I won district and regional competition and advanced to state in spelling and vocabulary. I also competed in ready writing and headline UIL. I am a member of National Honor Society, FBLA, and Student Council. I received national recognition in Who's Who among All-American Scholars. I have completed 31 college hours through the dual credit TTE program. My name is Edmundo Ramon, and in the fall I am planning to attend the University of Texas at Austin and major in government. Thank you for your time.
Superintendent. We're done? Well, that was great. Okay, that brings us to agenda item 5, public hearing on Texas Academics Performance Report 2012-13, formerly AEIS report, and report cards. Mr. Luna.
Good evening, Honorable Board, Dr. Rios, Cabinet members, community stakeholders. My name is Rene Luna, and tonight I'm here to present the Texas Academic Performance Report, TAPR, formerly known as the AEIS report. Due to changes in the legislation, the performance report, formerly known as the AEIS, the Academic Excellence Indicator Systems Report, is now called the Texas Academic Performance Report, TAPR. AEIS was published from the school year 1990-1991 to 2011-2012. Archived AEIS reports can be found through the Texas Education Agency archives. The TAPR provides information on the performance of students in each school and district in Texas. The performance also provides extensive information on schools, district staff, programs, and student demographics. An overview of the TAPR provides information and pulls together a wide range of information on the performance of students in the school districts from year to year. This information is put into an annual TAPR report, and the districts put this report together in the fall. There are several indicators that are looked at during this TAPR. The Texas Administered Assessment Performance by special groups, grades, subjects including alternate assessments, the Student Success Initiative, attendance rates, the completion of dropout rates, percent of graduates completing the high school recommended high school program, advanced placement, IB programs, SAT and ACT examination participation results, the PEAMS data, staff, demographics, special population, special program participation, attendance, retention, and leavers, state and district performance reports, and campus performance reports. There are many points to consider when reviewing the TAPR, and most that we ask that you look for information over time. There's points of information that change within year to year. This time around, it's important to note that the accountability ratings have changed to met standard, improvement required, and not rated. A sample study that was done using the TAPR and AEIS reports, it's a report that we've kept ongoing when we do these reports. Currently, we're on the year 2012-2013. When we started this report was in 2006-2007, and you can notice over time, we had 1,360 full-time employees, and currently in the year 2012-2013, we have 1,397. Over time, you can view the increases and decreases as it goes. We have this report broken out between staff, professional teacher, professional support, campus administration, central admin, educational aides, auxiliary staff. We also have budgeted review information, and we have that by year also. Expenditure reports by the fiscal year. An example study using the AEIS TAPR report shows population at Del Rio High School. In 2006-2007, the population at Del Rio High School was 1,981. That included 9th grade students. Currently at Del Rio High School, there's 1,987 students with 0 9th grade students, totaling out to be 1,987. We have the school report cards to present tonight also, and by the new standard, we have a timeline that shows that every campus and the district met standard. The graph that we have on display shows a timeline from 1994-1995 to present. Again, the standards have changed on this report here, the TAPR. We have done just a little bit different, presented that with a color code to show all across the board the campuses and their coding. If you look at 2012, 2013, we're all in that light baby blue, met standard. 2013 accountability rating and distinct designations. The district is currently at med standard. However, there's a PBM, performance-based monitoring, for special ed monitoring result status, the 1 year after the TEA on-site action, and it's a routine follow-up. Del Rio High School met standard, academic achievement in the top 25% of student progress. Del Rio Freshman School met standard with academic achievement in mathematics. Del Rio Middle School met standard with academic achievement in the top 25% of student progress. Garfield Elementary met standard. North Heights Elementary met standard. San Felipe Memorial Middle School met standard. Lamar Elementary met standard with a distinct designation of academic achievement in mathematics and also achievement in the top 25% of student progress. Cardwell met standard. Buena Vista met standard with academic achievement in reading ELA. Chavita Elementary met standard with academic achievement in reading ELA. Calderon Elementary met standard. And Dr. Lonnie Green met standard with academic achievement in ELA and reading. Other information that we include with the AEIS, now TAPR report, is those students that participated in the PSAT. And again, we're looking at this participation over time. This year, October 2013, Del Rio High School had 1,360 students who tested for the PSAT. And you can tell from the time that we've been keeping tabs, 2008 October, we started off with 269, and you can see the progress over time. We're looking at seniors that are participating in the four-year studies. They continued their studies in 2012. The database shows that students applying in the DRHS College Center for 4 years, for the four-year university, we have 109. The two-year Texas Community Technical Vocational, 182, and 52% of the graduating class attended college. The 2013 senior report will be available in April 2014. Scholarship offers. For the class of 2013, the scholarship money offered was approximately $6.2 million. Those students that applied for financial aid for 2013, seniors, 483. For the National Hispanic Recognition Program Scholars, 2013, 2 students, and National Merit Scholars, 0. SAT participation, seniors, 2013, 331. ACT, 2013, seniors, 98. Any questions? The hard copy report was given to you this week. This report can also be found online on the district webpage.
Questions for Mr. Luna? Mr. or Ms. has a question or discussion?
You know, I have a question. For the longest time, I know Cardwell had not been rated because, again, it's not a campus that we usually test and so forth. But that Met standard, is that now taking place of not rated?
Sir, we saw it on the report itself, and when we flipped through to Cardwell, it did have the Met standard function on there, and we did not want to omit any information from the report.
Okay.
But to answer your question, I'm not sure. We saw it on there, and I went ahead and included it.
Okay. Because I know for the longest time, you know, we don't rate it.
We'll provide them the board update, the criteria that they use to rate it.
Okay.
We'll do that this Friday.
All right. Thank you.
Other questions from the board for Mr. Luna? Are there any, Mr. Chavita has a question or a comment?
Not a question, but just a comment. I noticed that everything is going, all the numbers have increased in a positive way, especially like the PSAT. Evidently, we must be doing something great, because from 269 6 years ago to almost, 1360, that's a tremendous increase. Congratulations to whoever's in charge, especially the principal.
Dr. Keyes?
And to piggyback on what Coach just said, look at the numbers from 2010, 2011. It took a big jump, 500 to over 1,000. On the PSAT. Look at that jump, 529 to 1161. I can't remember, I'm thinking about, what did we do that year that got the kids to look at almost double that number of test makers? Do you remember?
Dr. Larson would have the answer.
Yeah, that particular year, what we planned was to make sure that we would offer this test to all available kids that qualified for it. So we took different steps to make sure in financial, if they needed some help, that the district would help them. So we paid for the test itself.
What's paying big dividends? The trend continued.
Let's continue.
questions or comments from the board? Is there any public comments to go with this hearing?
I'd just like to say something real quick.
Keys again?
We have a large crowd, which is nice and all, but I'm noticing also a lot of first-year teachers and the teacher education program here, so I'd like to thank you for your commitment on a holiday coming over here to learn about how school districts run. Thank you.
If there are no further comments from the board and no public comments pertaining to the public hearing, then that portion is done. Moving on to agenda item 6, board members report, upcoming Board of Trustees workshop, January 25th, 2014. This is a reminder, you know, a month ago it's been a while since the holidays and whatever else in between. That was the date that we agreed on, 25th, for the required workshop for training in the evaluation of the superintendent that will take place in 4 or 5 months from now. Region 15 is coming, the same people that did our goal-setting session back in May, so they'll be conducting that for us. This Saturday, 10 a.m. is the start time. I know sometimes we've done 9, sometimes we've done 10. Seems like people are a little more comfortable with 10 a.m. start time. So just a reminder, this Saturday, January 25th, 10 a.m. We'll get it posted probably tomorrow, I guess. We'll get it posted. Brings us to agenda item 7, reports. A, one of East Elementary Gym Project update, Mr. Salinas and Mr. Brown.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, members of the board, Dr. Rios. In your packet, you should have a one-page document that looks like this that our architect's going to go over with you. If not, I have some additional handouts. Time I'm going to turn it over to Mr. David Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Salinas. Mr. President, member of the board, Dr. Rios, it's good to be with you tonight. I've been coming here a long time, and I remember the first time I ever saw one of your board appreciation pageants. And y'all knocked the ball out of the park. I'm sure it's very gratifying for you, and I know it's gratifying for the kids, too. I think it's just a great process. I don't know of another district that does this, but I think it's just marvelous. That said, I'm going to go ahead and walk you through a brief presentation on the Buena Vista Gymnasium. You have a handout in front of you, but I think we'll cover most of this as we go. Here's a site plan showing the location of the new gymnasium, new parking at the top and bottom, and a fire lane that the city has has required that we add basically around. This goes all the way out to Amistad. We're working with the contractor at the time for a price on this, and there is money in the contract to accomplish this, we hope. Here's a little blow-up showing existing parking that's going to remain, new parking, the proposed gym right here, and again, the fire lane. In mid-October, earthwork began. The site, as you know, slopes rather dramatically, and the contractor's done a good job. We worked real hard to try to site the building properly, and it seems to have worked out fine. The earthwork was completed about, this is the northwest corner, and you can see kind of how the building, how high the building is above existing grade. That was the only way we could really keep it level. But in the end, a nice level playing field was accomplished, and it's worked out. It appears to have worked out very, very well. After the after the earthwork was completed, the building pad was put in, compacted select fill is put in for the slab on grade foundation to minimize vertical movement, and then they come back in and they cut the trenches. Y'all's soils are such that this is although it's a difficult process, it works out beautifully in terms of pouring and slab reinforcement. The contractor's done 2 things, and I'll talk about them briefly, but this is to save time, and this is one of them that he has come up with, and it's worked out very, very well. He began off-site wall construction, the metal studs that surround the building, and at the end of this, you'll see a slide, some pictures that Mr. Salinas took earlier today that shows how this works. in doing this and constructing these things off-site, he took about a 2-week exercise, reduced it to about 3 days. So, at any rate, the vapor barriers are put in, reinforcing steel is placed, and we had a pre-pour inspection on Tuesday, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. I don't remember exactly the date, but we come up and we check all the plumbing, and we check the forms, and we check the reinforcing steel, and everything was in good order. It was scheduled to pour the next day, but the weather was too cold. You can't pour concrete below 45 degrees, and it was in fact 45 degrees. So the actual pour itself occurred on Friday, the Friday morning after Thanksgiving. It was scheduled for 6 o'clock. We actually had to wait till about 7:30 because it was still too darn cold. We had to wait till it got up above 45 degrees. So, but the pour went fine. The concrete placement was good. As you can see, we set up on the east side of the building. The contractor set up on the east side of the building, extends out with a boom, and basically pours the entire slab from one location. As soon as the slab was finished, the columns began going up. These are concrete columns down here. We get up in the top and look down to make sure that the reinforcing steel has proper clearances around, that the bottom of the column is clean, and so you get a good bind between your concrete foundation and the concrete column itself. These were completed about mid-November, and the steel erection began. These are the bar joists and structural steel going in. And this is where we are today with the metal studs that he prefabricated off-site going in. He's done a very, very good job. We work real hard with him. The submittals that he provides us have been moving in very, very nicely. He's basically on schedule in almost every regard. He's 4 days behind schedule due to rain in basically October, and that was absolutely legitimate. Here is his schedule. Everything in red are things that are simply moving around and don't really affect the bottom line any. And the bottom line is his official completion date is July 5th. We have reasons to believe he will finish by July 1st, which was the original completion date. Anyway, so we're in very, very good shape there. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have, or Mike, if there's anything I didn't think about.
No, you covered it.
Questions?
I noticed on that canal that used to kind of divert the water away from the higher area, that there was a trench, and then I saw some PVC, I guess, 4-inch line joining the...
I believe what you're talking about, Mr. Mesa, is the sanitary sewer line that runs on that parallels the south side. Let me just go back to parallels the south side of the building proper. Bear with me. There is a sanitary sewer line that runs right from here all the way over to Echo Valley Drive, and I believe that's the deep trench that you saw. It's not a drainage trench.
Oh, it's not?
It is, in fact, a sanitary sewer line. That was a trench where we were going to put the sanitary sewer. Runs to a point right there.
Okay.
And right between the building, that's actually the porch of the building, and right there is where that sanitary sewer line runs over and makes a tap out in the street in Echo Valley.
I see, okay.
It's not drainage.
I just saw that, when they knocked down the canal,
Yes, sir.
which was, part of it was cement.
Yes, sir.
And then I saw the trench there, and I thought, well, maybe they're going to be drawing, collecting some of the water.
We have plans for drainage. It's a difficult site. It
Yes.
really is. I mean,
Right.
everything, as everybody knows, comes right down this bluff right here, and our building kind of necks right into it.
Right.
We'll have this proposed fire lane. We'll have the opportunity for sufficient drainage off the site.
Okay, because I know that that's always a concern, because the houses back there, I want to say like 5, 6, even maybe more feet
Yes, sir.
higher elevation,
Yes, sir.
and it all drains towards the school.
But there is going to be some improvements here, Mr. Mesa, for the concrete swell to drain the water away from there, though. That hasn't been done yet.
Okay. Thank you.
And now that we're out of the ground, we will be presenting a monthly update.
Mr. Chavita?
Just watching the construction as far as the foundation, it's excellent.
Yes.
And those trenches were great. I can see that it's very well packed. So that means that the building's going to withstand just about anything.
The building will do fine. The contractor's doing a great job. One of the best things you can do, and one of the things we pretty routinely do on projects, this is a very short project. We actually did the plans and specifications in 60 days.
Yeah.
The full design, all the plans, and it was on the streets in 60 days.
Oh, that's great.
The contractor's been working very well, and we meet weekly. That's really the key, is just don't let anybody have an opportunity, myself included, to dog off. And it's
thank
playing
you.
out very well.
Other questions, comments?
Thank you very much.
Brings us to agenda item 7B, information on notice of grant awards for the No Child Left Behind. Michelle Smith?
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Rios, members of the board. In your packet is a copy of our revised NOGA, Receipt for Federal Programs, Consolidated Application Grant Program, which reflects the 2013-14 maximum entitlements and the 2012-2013 carryovers. Across the 5 programs that we have, they're contained in our grant. For our entitlement, we have a total of $5,422,925. Our maximum entitlement is $90,685. Our carryover is a total of $1,343,678, which brings our total to $6,857,288 across the 5 programs in the NCLB application, which is an increase of $1,434,363. We do show a large carryover of $909,408 in our Title I. That is attributed to the 20% district reservation that we needed to make due to AYP. We are required to hold back 20% off the top of our grant at the beginning of the year for our school choice. But that was roughly over $700,000, but our expenses came in around $50,000, which left that large amount of carryover, because by the time TEA released those funds, it was too late in the year to do anything with those particular funds, which brought them into this year. So our district at this time is making plans to spend the large carryover as a one-time expenditure, because that's something that we can't count on as far as using for payroll or anything like that. It would be a one-time expenditure. So we're currently making those plans. We also have a large amount in our Title I Part C, which is our migrant fund. Basically, that can be attributed to the fact that last year we had the SSI. The year before that we didn't, but many of our migrant students had to attend the SSI summer school camp versus our Project SMART that we tend to hold in the summertime, as well as not as many students taking advantage of our tuition payment that we normally do for our seniors during the summertime, or any opportunities that they could take through UT. But we are definitely making plans to use that carryover as well. We're developing programs for our migrant students with the advent of our migrant counselor and our migrant mentors, so we definitely have plans for that carryover as well.
Questions from Ms. Smith? Dr. Keyes?
Michelle,
Yes, sir.
explain the difference between entitlement and maximum.
Okay, the entitlement is what TEA says that you're going to get when you begin. The maximum, what happens is they will take into account all those school districts that maybe did not apply for the funds. So they will take everything that's left over after we're given that planning amount, and then they say this is what we have, and they redistribute it to the districts who are participating in the Title I program. So that's what we can expect for this year. So we shouldn't be getting any more funds.
It just seems so, like a big misnomer. Maximum, and that number's a lot smaller than entitlement number.
But that's added on to our entitlement, so, yes. But that's something that we can't plan for because we don't know how much until they.
Thank you.
Okay.
Other questions? Ms. Smith?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Agenda item 7C, information on notice of grant awards for special education idea B, formula and preschool. Dr. Aguirre?
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. You also have in your packet a notice of grant award that was received for the 2013-14 entitlement in the Idea B formula for our grant program. We did receive a carryover of $37,438 in Idea B preschool. Our original entitlement was $1,566,955, and with the addition of the carryover, we are now at $1,604,393. We do expect a maximum entitlement in April, which will add to our current grant. Are there any questions?
Questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item 7D, attendance report. Dr. Garcia. Dr. Rios.
Mr. Garabedian, attendance report as well as a preliminary discipline report was provided in the board update. If the board wishes, we could go over the attendance report again. We can entertain questions, whatever the board members' preferences are.
Whatever pleases the board. Are there specific questions? Mr. Mesa has a question.
Again, I did notice a substantial decrease from last year to this year, and again, it focuses on high school. December? Yeah, I guess, and I'm talking about the totals for year to date.
These are the, Mr. Gabedian, Dr. Rios, members of the board. Good evening. These are the reports, and if you allow me, I can go to the report that shows the actual attendance throughout the district, Mr. Mesa. If you see that right there? That's the actual December attendance for all the campuses. The district was at 95.18, and then it follows all the way down. Buena Vista was 96.58, Garfield was 96.3, Lonnie Green was 96.28, Lamar was 95.97, North Heights was 95.85, 95.81 for Dr. Fermin Calderon. Ruben Chavira was 95.65, Del Rio Middle School 95.27, San Felipe Memorial was 94.87, Del Rio Freshman was at 94.37, and Del Rio High School was at 93.65. Yes, you are right. The percentages have gone down for Del Rio High School, but if you notice also, sir, it has gone down for the entire district. I am not 100% sure exactly what happened, but I do feel that there was some things that happened in December, a lot of sickness, and it really surprises me. For example, Lamar, North Heights, Fermin Calderon, they're all at 95, and that's rare. That is rare for any elementary campus to be at 95. So that kind of gives me an indication that there has been something throughout the community that has caused that. So I do believe that a lot of people have been sick, a lot of people have been out, and I'm not making excuses, but I do see the trend amongst the district that shows us that.
Well, we understand like December is a short month to begin with, and there's other factors, but could you show the comparison from last year to this year?
I don't have that here, sir. What we do is we compare with the CPOs or DPOs.
The decrease for the high school specifically was 0.45, a little bit less than 0.5% decrease to last year. A 0.5%, given the large number of students, does equate to a lot of students being absent. So it's not just because it's less than a percent isn't to be dismissed, but at the same time, it's 0.45. We would rather be 0.45 above than 0.45 below, but it is a little bit less than 0.5%.
Well, and the reason for my question is, again, I see a gradual decrease, again, from month to month, and, we are mid-year, and I've never seen a 93 before, and that's kind of troubling to me. That's all. I just don't like the downward trend.
Understood, sir.
Questions, comments? Ms. Lozano, you have something to add?
I agree with Mr. Mesa questioning, as we continue to see that downward trend. My request would be, and this may be something you're already looking at, is to actually drill down on what is specifically causing that downward trend for the high school. And having two high school kids, I think some of it is the testing, some of it is just the way the classes are structured. I'm not quite sure, but if we continue this downward trend, we're going to be in trouble. So I would think that you would already be investigating and looking for the reasons why the students are absent. Is it illness? Yeah, we've seen an increase, flu and all kinds of bugs during this holiday season. However, are we guessing or do we know? If we don't know what the issues are, then how do we address them?
I think that it's appropriate that when we present the same report next month, we will present comparison as much as our database will allow us, about how many students were absent for different reasons in the code that we were given. We will also present a report on how many truancy cases were reported, how many students up to this point had above the number of absences that would be required for us to file compared to last year, so that we can give a more precise report as to what are the factors that are contributing to the downward trend from last year to this year.
One more thing, I know I've articulated this before, that, you know, we go to conferences and we come back with some things that are being done elsewhere. And I mentioned, like, you know, West also, ISD, that had a fantastic program. I mean, they were zooming in on kids that missed one class period during the day. They might have been there first period, skipped third. The next day, they get caught. And that plan was brought, like, piece by piece to Del Rio. And yet, you know, we're seeing the downward trend with, I'm not seeing a plan in place, even though, you know, the trend continues from month to month, and something's got to be put in place. I think we have the personnel, and I think, you know, with the many JPs that we have that are assisting us throughout this district, something needs to be done on our end. Because we see reports of truancy and how many are taken to court. I don't want to see that. I want to see what are we doing to prevent next month from being 92. You know, because it's gone 95, 94, 93. This is the lowest I've seen in many years. 5 years, 6 years? I think I've been in 6 years.
Understood, sir.
Thanks.
Other questions? Well, Mr. Chavito? It is down, but, I mean, looking at the numbers, there was a 93 point something in March of last year. So it worries, and kids are out, they're not going to learn if they're not in school. So hopefully that our community will help us, because that's where it lies. They need to help us out, make sure that those students are in school. And I'm sure that whoever's in charge of attendance will doing their best, but hopefully that it was illness, is not that our kids are not wanting to go to school.
I understand, sir, and we will investigate. We will pinpoint to the student to find out exactly what happened, because we don't want to be guessing ourselves.
Yeah, and of course, by the same token, I hate to think that the courts will force the kids to come back to school. I think we need to do something else for them to get on up here and attend school. Just counsel with them or do something to get them back in school. A lot of calls, sending letters to the parents telling them why it's important that they should be in school, that type of thing.
Yes, sir.
Other questions, comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, agenda item 8, the consent agenda. Does any board member wish to pull any items from the consent agenda for discussion? No? Okay, is there a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda? Mr. Overfelt has motioned. Is there a second? Ms. Lozano has second. All in favor by a show of hands? Unanimous, motion carries. As is the custom, does one of the trustees wish to read the donation list on page 89?
Oh, because I do a good job. Okay. I'll do it, Mr. President.
Mr. Overfelt?
All right. Our donations, monetary donations. The following are all from Life Touch. $1,416.30 to Garfield Elementary. $1,643.19 to Irene Cardwell. $2,238.13 Buena Vista Elementary. $1,135.66 to Dr. Fermin Calderon. $1,628 to Dr. Lonnie Green. $1,179.32 to the Del Oro High School Student Council. $121.86 to Irene Cardwell Elementary Migrant Students. $766.76 to Del Oro Freshmen. $820.17 to Lamar Elementary. $1,766.61 to North Heights Elementary. $1,003.80 to San Felipe Memorial Middle. $1,243.64 to Ruben Chavita Elementary. Ram Country, in the amount of $920 to Ruben Chavita Elementary. The following are from the Spot. $68 to Dr. Lonnie Green Elementary. $132 to North Heights Elementary Student Council. $116 to Ruben Chavita Elementary. In non-monetary donations, Three Rivers Bass Club is donating 2 bicycles valued at $200 to Buena Vista Elementary. Mr. Gaddy's Pizza is donating game cards valued at $18,490 to the San Felipe Del Rio CISD elementary campuses pre-K through 5th. And the International Good Neighbor Council is donating medallions and ribbons valued at $452 for the elementary campuses science fairs.
Thank you, Mr. Overfelt. As always, we thank those individuals and groups that support our students so generously. Agenda item 9, citizens to be heard. Ms. Falcone, anyone registered? No. No citizens to be heard. Brings us to agenda item 10, administration. A, consideration to approve memorandum of understanding between the San Felipe Del Rio CISD and the Boys and Girls Club of Del Rio Incorporated. Dr. Rios and Aide Garcia.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Rios, members of the board. We're here for your support to ask the Del Rio San Felipe School District and the Boys and Girls Club want to create a partnership where this partnership will allow the Boys and Girls Club to use our elementary gymnasiums, and the Boys and Girls Club will offer tutoring program for the students. The time that the gyms would be available will be around the custodians' work hours, because they will be the ones that would be locking up the gym. And we will have a contact person at each elementary campus, and then I will also support the Boys and Girls Club with ideas on resources for the tutoring. Is there any questions?
Questions, Mr. Chavita?
Yes, I'm glad that we're doing something like this, because I've been in the impression that we should utilize our facilities a lot more. 3 o'clock shouldn't be the cutoff for them. They should be utilized, especially gyms, stadiums, fields, etc. So that's great. I'm all for it.
And it'll be just for practice, no games.
Questions?
Mr. Garabedian, did we
Yes.
skip over some parts here?
Excuse me?
Skip over about the items over for $5,000, contract for $5,000. Letter G.
No, that's a consent.
No, that's under consent, Dr.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you.
Questions? Yes, Ms. Lozano has a comment.
Ms. Garcia, as more information comes out regarding the tutoring, would that please be shared with us and of course the community so people can take advantage and.
Certainly, we can provide that to the superintendent and he can update you on the,
So who are the tutors, or who will they be?
they're going to be from the Boys and Girls Club, the coaches themselves, they're going to provide some of the tutoring. And they're going to go ahead and establish that tutoring. They're at the Boys and Girls Club.
And they also hire, I'm sorry, I was gonna say, the Boys Club will hire college students to tutor there at their center.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, recommend you contact with us, and we can see if we can coordinate with the college students on the prep programs. That'd be good exposure for them.
Yeah.
And if it's, as Dr. Rios has said, a paying position, hey, the poor college kids will love that, okay?
Are those services currently offered by the Boys and Girls Club?
No.
That's a new service.
Yeah, I did it a long time ago, when I first started here, and it was very successful. I remember when the boys club was down by the creek before then they moved over here, so went back again. It was very successful.
Who's in charge of the Boys Club now? Mr. Garza? Who's in charge?
At the Boys Club, we've been working with Mr. Roland Garza.
Roland Garza. He's still there.
Other questions? Comments? Recommendation?
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees authorize Dr. Carlos Rios, Superintendent of Schools, to sign the memorandum of understanding between San Felipe Del Rio CISD and the Boys and Girls Club of Del Rio, Inc., as presented.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept?
I so move.
Mr. Chavita has motion, is there a second? Mr. Mesa has second. All in favor, by a show of hands? Unanimous, motion carries. Thank you. Brings us to agenda item 11, curriculum instruction. A, consideration to approve the submittal of the Head Start Policy Council bylaws. Ms. Garcia and Ms. Linda Guanajuato Webb are presenting.
Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Rios, members of the board. In your packet, you have a copy of the bylaws that are up for consideration. In compliance with Head Start, CFR 1404.51, Management System and Procedures, Policy Council bylaws must be reviewed and approved by the Policy Council at least annually. The Policy Council reviewed the bylaws. The bylaws were not changed from last year. They accepted the bylaws that were already in place. They approved the bylaws on November 17, 2013. Are there any questions?
Questions? Mr. Mesa.
I had one, I remember going to the training and there was something stipulated there about there's a policy member that could be voted in and then leaves for whatever reason, and then they can come back if they have, let's say, another student in Head Start. But it's only after, if they serve 3 years, they can serve 3 years?
Correct.
What is the amount of time in between that they can come back?
Well, normally it's just a 3-year period. We haven't had anybody else that has come back because the members that are voted in are not voted in, they're elected. Our members are all elected. And this past year, we had, I want to say, between 39 to 40-something parents that were on that ballot. So we don't have anybody that has come in. But there is, the committee will meet in case that something like that were to occur. But we have not seen that in the past 2 years.
Okay, but I think in the training, they mentioned that
Yes.
if there's the parent that has, let's say, another child within, is there I think there's, if I remember correctly, there had to be a minimum of 1 year out, and then they can come back in for another 3-year term?
Correct.
And it doesn't have to be stipulated here on the bylaws? Okay, as long as y'all
There's an understanding,
follow
yes.
the law. Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Questions? Okay, the recommendation?
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the submittal of the attached Policy Council bylaws as presented, and Mr. Garabedian is authorized to sign.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Ms. Haynes has motion, Mr. Overfelt has second. All in favor by show of hands? Keys, also voting unanimous. Motion carries. Agenda item 11B, consideration to approve the submittal of the Head Start written plans and procedures.
In your packet, you also have consideration of submittal for written plans and procedures. Last year, if the board recollects, except for Dr. Rios, he wasn't with us last year, you all received a binder, a 2.5-inch binder with all the written plans and procedures, and you have been receiving those every single year. Recommendation was made last year that unless there were definite changes, you would be given a CD with all your written plans and procedures, which is the case that you received this year. The item that we did look at and are looking very closely is, of course, you mentioned it earlier, the attendance. However, I do want to stipulate one thing. In our attendance committee for attendance, our district states 96% rate. But I do want to quote something that states 1305.8 attendance under Head Start. When the monthly average daily attendance rate in a center-based program falls below 85%, a Head Start program must analyze the causes as to the absences or absenteeism. However, we don't follow necessarily the 85% because we want to continue and be as close to the district level as possible. So one of the things that was altered in the written plans as our attendance committee met, we looked at the items that we had in place. For example, phone calls to the parents. The second was the second absence, contact the parents. Before it was we would send a written letter, send a follow-up letter. So there are certain steps that we have eliminated in order so that we can try and be as close as possible to what the district level is asking for attendance. I do know that as far as the attendance rate, Cardwell is always like at a 94, 95. I mean, we're never to where elementary is. And not making excuses for our parents, but you have to realize that a lot of our parents at Cardwell have, their oldest child is the one that's at Cardwell. And when they have to be at the bus stop early in the morning and it's freezing cold, they're not going to carry a newly born baby to the stop sign or to the bus stop to wait for the bus. In some cases, we do provide transportation by utilizing the Head Start vans, but we also have to be very cautious with that because we have to pick up the parent and bring the parent with us. We don't have buses that will transport the child that's 3 and 4. But I do want to assure the board, the governing body, as we do our policy council, that we are making every attempt to have our students on campus. But I did want to share the attendance guidelines as per Head Start, but we do look at following the district guidelines. And that's one of the things that is different in the written plans. Any other questions? Or questions?
Are there questions for Webb? Okay, the recommendation, please.
Okay, it is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the submittal of the attached written plans and procedures as presented.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Ms. Lozano has motion, Mr. Mesa has second. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item 11C, consideration to approve new career and technical education courses offered at Del Rio High School for the 2014-15 school year. Mr. Casillas and Mr. Gonzalez.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Rios, members of the board. Career and technical education continues to explore new programs and new classes to continue to enhance the CT overall. It is my pleasure to actually introduce 3 new classes that we would like to add to our offerings in the different programs. CTE currently has 85 courses that are being offered at the high school. And also we have 13 dual credit courses also offered. So this is in addition to those. We would like to add 3 new classes. The first one is forensic science. This is part of our CT cluster in law enforcement. We would also like to add that this is also under the public service endorsement that is coming up. This is for grades 11 and 12, and it also counts as a science credit. The next course is statistics and risk management. This is part of our CT cluster under finance, also counting under the endorsement of business and industry. Again, grades 11 through 12, and it's counting as an academic credit of math. The third one, engineering mathematics, as part of our STEM, our science, technology, engineering, and math program under STEM endorsement, 11 through 12, and also counting as a math credit. These courses can be offered as regular courses, and they also can be offered as advanced courses. In looking at the list of courses that are offered available through TEA, we analyzed to see which courses we could add to enhance what we already have, and we felt that these 3 courses from the list actually will do that. Now, as being said that some of these classes are offered as regular and dual credit, these classes also have some prerequisites. So again, forensic science, there is some prerequisites, and I think in your packet you have some of the prerequisites that are required for the classes. So I want to again make some recommendation of this particular courses can be offered as advanced, and we would like them to be.
Questions for Mr. Gonzalez? Mr. Mesa?
I just want to commend you, Mr. Gonzalez, for doing an outstanding job, and it's encouraging to see classes added instead of deleted. So I'm glad to see these 3 added, and just thank you so much.
Well, we want to provide the students with as many options as possible, especially if they're counting for science or math credit.
Mr. Gonzalez, how would the cosmetology program fit in with that as well? Have you ever thought about that as well?
We have analyzed the cosmetology program. We did a survey just recently on cosmetology, and we ended our survey last Friday, and we are going to present this to the cabinet as an option. We have done a survey to see what it costs our facilities, instructor-wise, and how many students are actually interested, and we will present that to cabinet.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, the recommendation? Dr. Garza, did you have something to add? No?
We would like to amend the recommendation to just to say that it is a recommendation of the administration of the Board of Trustees approve this new advanced courses with a grade point value of 5 to be added to the options for Del Rio High School students.
Mr. Overfield, did you have a question? You look like you have a question. Okay.
I'm fine, I'm sorry. What we want to make sure of is that they will be offered as advanced, but also as regular. They'll be offered as both.
Everybody clear? Okay. We've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to accept? Mr. Chavita has motion, Mr. Mesa has second. All in favor by a show of hands? Unanimous? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item 11D, consideration to dispose of CTE purchase textbooks. Mr. Casillas, Mr. Gonzalez.
Again, Mr. Garabedian and Dr. Rios, members of the board. The Career and Technical Education Department, CTE, would like to dispose of several out-of-date textbooks. These textbooks are no longer used in the classroom and currently taking up space. And we're requesting permission to give faculty and our students these textbooks to be used as resource materials and destroy all textbooks not given away. As you well know, that we do have a lot of CTE programs, and there are some changes as far as standards that follow certifications. Now, these books have been purchased in a variety of years, and we have a list that's been provided in your packet. So again, these are not state-adopted textbooks and are purchased as ancillary materials for CTE courses.
Questions? Mr. Mesa?
I hate to be the one with questions, but, we have Comstock that is gonna be in a bind like next year. And I'm talking about CTE courses that they're not currently providing that they must provide in the near future. Are those books of any value at all to any other district?
After looking at the actual books themselves, no, sir, they're not. A lot of them deal with certifications. A lot of them are technology books. And looking at the different ones, the answer would be no. They can use them as resource materials and probably just maybe one or two from the list, which would be the Microsoft books that can be used, but the majority of them are actually class sets. If you notice, some of them are small numbers. So again, that's why they have been at the warehouse for many, many years, and again in the library, and we just don't know what to do with them at this point.
I just wonder if my buddy Wolfenbarger could, if he could ask him, like, if there any way that you can use these. I'm just kind of looking out for them. If an offer could be made, I don't know if there's any interest in.
We'll extend the list of titles, and if he would, if there is something that they need, then we'll bring it back to the board for appropriate action.
I mean, I'm all for, if we don't need them, fine, but I'm just thinking, they're going into a new venture that they're gonna have to provide CTE courses, we know that. So either they contract out but somehow I'm thinking if there's any materials at all that could be utilized by Comstock, then let them have them.
I'm providing with the list.
We'll provide with a list as we want.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, the recommendation.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the disposal of textbooks as presented.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Chavita has motion, Mr. Mesa has second. All in favor by a show of hands? Unanimous, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks. Brings us to agenda item 12, Facilities and Operations. A, consideration to approve the first reading of local policies CKE, DGBA, and DNA from Update 98. Mr. Salinas?
Good evening again, Mr. Garabedian, members of the board, Dr. Rios. Our local policies CKE, DGBA, and DNA were pulled from Update 98 first reading in December for further review by staff. The side-by-side comparisons and the board member summaries have been provided under separate cover and have been reviewed by all of the cabinet members. The three local policy additions before you, revisions and deletions, include the following. CKE local covers safety programs, risk management with security personnel, which has been reviewed by Chief Haynes. DGBA local covers personnel, management relations, employee complaints and grievances. DNA local covers performance appraisal and evaluation of teachers. Do you have any questions on the administrative vantage point summaries that were provided?
Any questions for Mr. Salinas? Mr. Mesa has a question.
Not necessarily on these three that are being changed, but I don't know if we have updated our policies to include, and I guess this is more for Dr. Rios, the e-cigarette business thing. Have we updated ours to include that as well? I'm talking about e-cigarettes.
I think I would remember if we did that since I've been here, sir, so the answer would be no, not since I've been here. But I really can't speak of anything that happened prior to me, but we'll definitely follow up and provide the response and an update.
That's something that's coming up, across different districts, and I think that needs to be looked at for a revision if we have not included it. But all these others, I'm fine with this.
That's the electronic one?
Yes.
Okay. I will review that, Mr. Mesa.
Other questions for Mr. Salinas on this item? Okay, the recommendation.
It's a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the first reading of local policies CKE, DGBA, and DNA as presented.
Heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to accept? Ms. Lozano has motion. Mr. Chavita has second. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous, motion carries. Thank you. It's now approximately 7:45 PM, and we are on agenda item 12B. Consideration to approve the Citizens Committee's district-wide construction renovations and repairs project list. Dr. Rios, Mr. Salinas?
Mr. Salinas is gonna take us through a presentation describing the process that was followed. I would like to take this time to thank the committee members that y'all nominated, as well as the committee members that, the directors, recommend. I see, Mrs. Aquilino, who was Dr. Keith's representative present, and, the others are employees. I don't see any other ones, but I do thank them for their attendance and participation. So if we can have Mr. Salinas go through the presentation, sir?
Absolutely.
Okay, Mrs. Valdez is handing out the PowerPoint slides for your review. I'm going to go over the timeline and then basically what was covered at each of the 5 meetings that we held with the Citizens Committee. On August the 29th, the Board of Trustees approved an ordinance to commit $25 million from the district's general fund balance for future district-wide construction, renovation, and repair projects. From that, on September the 16th, the Board of Trustees then approved the superintendent to move forward in forming a Citizens Committee to review and prioritize those construction needs of the school district, which are to be funded by the $25 million from the dedicated fund balance. So on October the 21st, the superintendent reported to the Board of Trustees that the Citizens Committee was formed and consisted of 6 program directors, 6 community members, which were named by each of the directors, and 7 community members that were named by each of the board members, for a total of 19 Citizen Committee members. And they are presented here on this slide. There are 13 community members, and there are 6 district directors that formed the committee. The administration met 5 times with the Citizens Committee as follows. The first meeting was held on October the 31st, and the district's campus facility needs assessment was presented by the administration and our facility needs architect, David Brown. And those needs totaled $34,591,000. And the committee was given the individual breakouts for each of the campuses, along with the summary of assessment cost. And you'll notice down here on the bottom, it totals that $34,591,000. And it covers everything on the campus. If they needed an additional wing for science or for art programs, paving, HVAC, roofing replacement, etc. The next meeting was held on November the 13th, and the district's special project list was presented, totaling $87,009,000. And again, the committee members were given the specifics of each of those projects, along with this summary table here. There were a group of projects that were under athletics here. There were other projects that did not fall either under athletics, fine arts, or career and technology. And you'll see down here the total was $87,009,000 for all of those specialized projects throughout the district. The third meeting was held on November the 20th, and the committee worked in 3 small groups to prioritize all of those projects that we presented, the campus projects and the special projects. And they were facilitated by some of our cabinet members. So Mr. Casillas facilitated this group right here. Mrs. Garcia facilitated another group, and they came up with 2 different options, and Mrs. Valdez facilitated a third group. And this is what they came up with at the end of that meeting. The yellow signifies that at least 2 groups were in collaboration with that project. And obviously, we wanted to see all three groups across being in favor and consensus with that specific project. So on the very bottom, you can see that Mr. Casillas's group had consensus at least with one other group of $22,776,000, while Mrs. Garcia's group had two options. One was in consensus of about 10 million, and the other one was in consensus at approximately 19.5. And as I indicated earlier, Mrs. Valdez's group was also in consensus with Mr. Casillas's group at 22.7 million. So the fourth meeting, we put them back in groups again on December the 11th to again work in small groups to try to reach further consensus. And also, Dr. Rios asked them to submit their priority project list that might not make the list for the 25 million for consideration for future projects in the district. And what this shows now at the bottom here is that Mr. Casillas's group reached consensus at 22.592 million. So did Mrs. Garcias, and I have Dr. Aguirre there because on one of those meetings, Mrs. Garcia was not available, so Dr. Aguirre took over as facilitator. They reached consensus at 22,592,000, along with Mrs. Valdez. The blue under Casillas's group shows that only that group chose those four projects that totaled 1.24 million. The mustard colored here, these two groups were in consensus, but the Casillas's group had only placed 1.168 million toward fine arts improvements. And the green up here, only this group chose the 8,000, and this group here actually totaled the full 25 million. So the only difference between Garcia and Valdez's group is that 8,000, because Garcia's group totaled 25 million minus the 8,000. The fifth and final meeting was held on January the 15th. The committee was presented with a final list that was in consensus by all three groups. And that is that list right there that totaled to 22,592,000. So if I back up, that's this 22,592,000 that you see across the board here. But we reduced the list just to show the 22,592,000 in projects. In summary, I'm going to show the site of where these projects are located with a slide in the order that they're listed here. So starting with the parking lot paving and lighting, that's a project at Del Rio High School. That's this area right here in red. That's by the cafeteria area. This is the ROTC building. Calderon Elementary is the re-roofing of the main building here. San Felipe Memorial Middle School is the re-roofing of these two science wings. Del Rio High School is the re-roofing of the main roof. And then single point of entry security renovations at all of these schools. You'll notice some are not listed, and that's because that single point of entry is already in place. Walter Leverman Ram Stadium concession and restroom improvements, which is on the home side right here, expanding the restrooms and improving the concession area. Converting this existing administration building to an early college high school for approximately 200 students. Converting the old Del Rio Middle School downtown to a student performing center and administrative offices. Several career and tech improvements at the high school. This would be the 1,000 wing, some health science improvements. The 100 area where culinary arts is currently located, some improvements to that program in career and technology. Some improvements in the 400 wing for the communications of career and technology. some improvements in the 600 wing, which is the business wing classrooms. And the final project that made the list was the new Del Rio High School Career and Technical Education Center at the old North Heights site. The final thing from that meeting were future projects that didn't make the list that we just talked about. 9 members out of the 19 committee members that were on the list voted to pursue Del Rio Middle School STEM Academy. 8 members voted for constructing a new elementary and also constructing a new field house at the Del Rio High School. 5 members chose the upgrading of the PE dressing rooms at the Del Rio High School. 4 members, new tennis courts, concession and restrooms at the freshman area. Replacing intercom system, PA systems at different school sites were 4 members. 3 members chose repurposing the old Garfield for staff support. 2 members chose freshman fine arts improvements. 2 members chose the ROTC dressing room upgrades. And then a single member chose the following, something in the fine arts department, renovating the Cade area, welding automotive. Someone voted to expand the Del Rio High School bus stop and also adding lighting along the walkway from the Little Theater, a performing arts center, and resurfacing tennis courts, and then looking at a parental aid center somewhere in the district. And that concludes the information from the Facilities Committee. Dr. Rios?
One thing to note, we have, depending on the action that the board takes tonight, we have our work cut out for us in the next couple of months. But as soon as we get that work underway, depending on how y'all vote tonight, I will be asking the board for permission to again reconvene another committee with more of with the purpose of developing a 5, 10, and 15-year strategic development plan, so that we can look at the projects that were not covered and again solicit community input into how we would proceed. But there's going to be plenty of work to handle in the next couple of months. I don't want to forget about some of the projects that were not addressed. $25 million is a whole lot of money, but as you can see by the projects that were listed, there's a lot more that needs to get done. And without an appropriate plan, we may not address them properly. But like I said, I'd like to get started first on the work that y'all agree on tonight.
Okay, so now is the time for some very healthy discussion. Mr. Chavita?
Mr. Salinas? Yes, sir. Can you go to the slide where it showed the $22 million that we were... That is what we're proposing.
Yes, sir.
And the reason I bring this up because when I first got on the board, I kept on saying, hey, our fund balance is real healthy. Let's do something about it.
Yes, sir.
And I kept on. Finally, we got some things going. And this is great. I appreciate the fact that those people came out with some good suggestions. Is there anything else that we could, well, I can come up with 2 or 3, but I'll leave it up to the people and then we'll bring it up again. We got approximately, what, about $2,500,000?
About 2.4.
What are we gonna do with that?
There's a couple of options. The more important one is that all of these projects are based on projected costs. Now, granted, the architect in helping us develop these costs was probably conservative in thinking that that what they described up there is what's gonna cost. There are two projects that are quite large, and that's the renovation of the old Del Rio Middle School and the building of the CT Magnet School. My comfort level is that we wait and see how these projects are progressing, because it's always healthy to have a cushion should something unexpected come up. Although I would love to be able to complete more projects, having part of this 2.4 million as a cushion for any unexpected things that may come open once the architects go in there and do their forensic work is important. Maybe not all 2.4 million, but certainly some of it. Because there will be some forensic work involved, particularly at the old Del Rio Middle School, before the architects come up with their plans. But beyond that, I just want to be cautious in moving forward.
And you think that we could miss it by $2.4 million?
Not by $2.4 million. That would be a huge miss. So no, I don't think we'll miss it by 2.4. But I do want to be safe.
Okay. I'll come back again with something else. I'm sure that everybody wants to.
You know, the fact that the amount of money is unprecedented. $2.5 million as a cushion, I think, is a prudent thing. Because you're talking about roughly 10% of what's being asked.
Correct.
Right?
Yes, sir.
You know, the position of the fund balance, if you go back and look at the audits over the last 10 years, the position of the fund balance has grown significantly in the last about 3 years. So the money that's there to spend is not a product of a very long time period. It's a product of fairly recently. So I guess the point I'm trying to make to all the members of the board is I think we might want to err on the side of caution. That's why I like the idea of the cushion like Dr. Rios has stated.
When that first came in 4 years ago, it was something like 29, 30. So we grew quite a lot, about 20 million.
I have some thoughts on this. One, thank you very much to the citizens that gave their time to come and do that. I think the representative that I chose, Mr. Javier Rodriguez, Ms. Aquilino, who's here, and the others there to come and give your time and look at, what can we do for the district there. And there's some great things on here, in particular the old high school, the old Del Rio High School. They're the old 8th grade. I'm extremely excited to see that on there because it's a beautiful building. And if we're able to go in and do this, it will be definitely a showcase within the district and also the revitalization of downtown Del Rio. And moving on from that, we all have stuff that we're very passionate about there. And some of the things that were presented was dealing with the tennis courts there. When I went through the high school here, it was the 6 courts there at where the current ROTC building now sits. In my senior year, they built the 4 right below the freshman and then added the other 8 in there afterwards. And, for 15 plus years, they've sat and deteriorated. The surfacing is cracked. It's been that way since I came to the district in '04, and I know it was like that before then and we're coming back to the football stadium after going in and spending $1.5 million to put in artificial turf and redo the tracks there. We're going to add almost another $1 million to expand the restrooms and the concession, which is great because they need it. No one in here is going to deny that at all if you've been in those facilities, and that's great there. So within 2 years, we're looking at putting $2 million into that facility there. That's great. However, our tennis courts, the community gets to use those there. When the high school is not practicing or the junior high is not practicing on them, the community comes out. We hold tournaments there. We allow tournaments that are held on those courts because they're really the only ones in town. You got the 2 up here at Buena Vista by the pool and then you've got those down by the old Methodist church that no. There. And, again, the community gets to use that, their Ram field or the Bank and Trust field. The high school uses it and then some other stuff, but we don't let kids out there just off hours to play on it. We don't let kids in to play on our football field, off hours or anything like that. The tennis court is used by the community there. So I feel it's justified to go in and put the resurfacing in with this at $66,000 there. I also believe it's justified in going in and allowing the building of the concession and restrooms there because of the fact that it's one of the few facilities that we have that don't have restrooms. When we have tennis matches here, it's the freshman gym, and yes, we went in and redid that, but it's away from the building. I know I coached for 5.5 years there and all that. Storage, the freshman gym, or we do some storage in there, and we have a tiny little storage shed out there that was there when I was in high school. And it is, it's had the door kicked in who knows how many times and welded back on. So I think it's justified also in going in and spending the $480,000 to build the restroom concession storage for that facility there. The other two tennis courts, those can wait there. So I think if others on the board agree, maybe we should go in and look at adding or amending at $546,000, which will still leave you $1.8 million reserve there. And I believe we're going to be good on what we do there as far as overage and stuff like that, and keep it on our contractors. So I don't think we'll eat through that there. Those are my thoughts there. Everything else, I love it. The CTE magnet, the 8th grade there, but I think for too long the tennis courts have been ignored, particularly since they are a community thing when the district's not using it.
I'd like to follow up on
Mr. Messi?
if I could. I think it's obvious to all the board members that, there's more needs than what money we have. 25 million sounds like a whole lot. In all reality, I think of the overcrowding like at Buena Vista. Well, we need an elementary like soon, but we don't have the funds, to cover everything that we need. With that being said, I agree with Mr. Overfeld in a sense that we're building up our tennis program, and you can see it from middle school with the enrollment that they have there, and all the work that goes on behind the scenes, like the booster club, that they have a benefit tennis tournament here to raise funds to buy bags and to restring their tennis rackets and so forth. And I'd like to just compliment all the booster clubs that there are, because we couldn't do it without them. They supply so much for our needs. But, we understand that, we have needs everywhere. I'd love to see an elementary school going towards the lake, because the growth is in that area. I'm worried about construction that is going on, like on a daily basis. I see houses, being built and people moving in. I'm thinking, man, we're not going to be able to house these students next year. There's got to be a plan in place. And I'm all for a 5-year strategic plan. But yes, I agree that, I think what Mr. Overfeld left out was that we had some prior renovation to the Ram Stadium with more seating added before we did the AstroTurf, and then, now with the proposed 900,000 addition of the restaurant, it's all needed.
Yes, sir.
But I also see that we've got to spread the money in areas where, there is a great need. I'd love to see some more tennis courts at the middle school. We don't have the funds. If we can start with something at least, for the resurfacing and the restrooms, I'm all for it. I'm all in favor for that, because again, I see the work that goes on, and I'd like to recognize one president of the band booster. The tennis booster club, Mario Gloria, has been president of the tennis booster club for years and has donated so much money because he's the one that coordinates, these tournaments to raise funds for our students by providing them bags when they go off to a tournament and restringing, the tennis racket and so forth. And I mean, he's at a point where he's not going to be able to do that. Somebody else is going to take over because, again, his health, something has happened here recently. But I'm all in favor of resurfacing that tennis court that is used by both the students in the community and adding the restroom facilities and the concession stand because that's going to provide even more. If we have a booster club that is able to generate more funds and give back to our students again, I'm all in favor for that. So I'm in support.
Dr. Keys?
Mr. Overfelt brought up about how the renovation of the old Del Rio High School is great, it is a jewel, but there's a bigger jewel there, in my opinion, than the building, Coley Warlock Gym. And there's nothing mentioned out here about Coley Warlock Gym.
I apologize for that, Dr. Keats. There is some funds for the.
That's what I was under the impression of.
Yes, sir.
And I actually, we can't ignore that. That's a jewel. They don't make coliseums like that anymore. I mean, if you go to the Carlos Guy, which is nice, but if anyone goes watch a basketball game, it's awkward. I mean, all the kids are going back and forth, which is great. The cheerleaders and all that, but the games are real good sometimes. You can't watch them. You have that problem at Cody Warlock because it's steep. It goes down and. Every time I used to think back about the old days of Cody Wardlaw, then I saw that old movie Hoosiers. I go, that's a coliseum that came out of a movie like that. They don't make them like that anymore. They're jewels.
I have some questions about the list. Now, the list, of course, is a product of the committee, and this is based on needs and also vision of the future, where we're going as a district. If you look at the first part, right, the project starting with the parking lot lighting, that category, I guess, as a category could be defined as safety and security, right? Better lighting, re-roofing at Calderon, and then entry security for $2.5 million. I don't think there's any question or dispute there. The second part of the list, this is where I think I want some clarification. What would be the conversion of this building?
Go ahead. If the list is approved, this building will be turned into a classroom wing for the high school and rededicated as an early college high school. So we would have students who would be taking dual credit courses here. We would start working on an application for early college high school.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify, because there is some misconception. A building does not create an early college high school. An early college high school is a TEA designation. In fact, I had this discussion with someone earlier today. So this building would be kind of the site where someday that possibly would be housed. All right. And converting Old Del Rio Middle School. Now, this is a student performance center where, what would be there? What would take place?
At the, obviously the biggest, most beautiful part about that building is the auditorium.
Right.
And at that auditorium, anything that the students are doing, for example, if we were to have a UIL competition here between Garfield, that shares the property, and the auditorium, we would have just about everything that had to do with students, as well as the fine art performances, whether it be plays. We remember the high school kids did Annie, and they did Grease, and they did multiple productions, primarily because there wasn't enough room at the little theater. The band concerts, so certainly all the fine arts performances, but also any other needs for that facility having to do with student.
So when we say a performance center, we don't mean strictly fine arts. UIL, award ceremonies, robotics, other CT. I mean, this is a district student showcase.
Right, that is correct.
Okay.
But multi-use.
Multi-use, like an event center.
But also, I just want to be clear, but this central office personnel would move into that building as well, including the boardroom.
And I know we've had lots of discussions about a need for a place to showcase things that our students do, whether it's robotics, whether it's CTE stuff. They come up here in this crowded little stage. UIL, I went to a UIL competition back in December. It was well organized and put together great, but it was extremely crowded. I'd like to see things like that move to a place that's more presentable. So that makes perfect sense. The other half of that money, and I'm talking about the bottom portion of the list, is devoted to CTE, which I think is clearly a nod towards employability after high school. I noticed repurposing of Old North Heights as CT Center Automotive Electric Building Trades. Mr. Gonzalez, there's, at this time, one of the things that is held back, which is the dual credit automotive, is the present location at the high school. Is that correct, or am I getting that wrong?
Back in approach. Mr. Garabedian, yes, we do have automotive as dual credit, and we also have welding as dual credit.
Okay, so
besides business, of course.
Wasn't there some discussion about the current location at Del Rio High School that in order to offer another type of auto mechanics dual credit, it would have to be in a larger area? I thought I remember a discussion like that a while back.
It was primarily to be more functional, Mr. Garabedian.
Okay.
The lifts are too shallow for
Right.
the
So
ceiling height.
would the repurposing of Old North Heights, would that address those
Yes, sir.
deficits?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it would be the Project Lead the Way, I abbreviated it there. The whole Project Lead the Way program would also get moved to the Old North Heights, along with also, I believe, was it law enforcement? Law enforcement. So a lot of the,
Ms. Lozano, that's another thing. Robotics is now in the old metal trades building where, when I was a student, Ronnie McFadden and Art Moraida taught out of it, and that's where they're housed. So, assuming this type of refitting and development, robotics would get a better location?
yes, and obviously better meet their needs based on the facility.
So they would go to the new CTE
Yes, sir.
magnet also?
Yes, sir.
Welding as well.
Yes. And building trades and electrical trades.
Come, if I may,
Mr.
come
Orville?
back to the old eighth grade there with the multi-purpose. I can remember as a young kid, going to stuff that wasn't related to the district in there, because the district would rent that out to the community for different things, their dance and ballet, et cetera. If we go that route, is that something that we would look at going back and doing there? Or are we gonna leave that to just the, like, how the Paul Polk House is allowed of it now? I can remember a time where they held stuff like that in the old eighth grade.
If the board wishes, that's something that could certainly be added to our list for leasing out to the community.
I was just curious.
Mr. Chavita?
How much was getting back to the tennis, how much was the resurfacing and whatever we need out there? What was the total?
66,000 for the resurfacing.
Again, how much was it?
66,000 is the resurfacing. And then out of that 730,000 that's here, approximately 250,000 of that is for the 2 new tennis courts, and 480,000 of that is for the actual building, restroom concessions / dressing room.
So it totals up to what?
546.
796 if you add the 2 tennis courts. Without the tennis courts, it would be 546,000.
But it didn't make it
I've
to...
always been on the opinion that if we're gonna do something for the kids, we need to do it while they're here. We can't be waiting for tomorrow. This is why I kept on saying about the gyms that we just got through building, and the one that's gonna be built. You know, we started some time ago, and the kids, those, when we talked about it, those kids are in high school now. And, so, getting back to the tennis courts, it's something that is needed right now. I mean, those kids say, we want to, like Ms. Presto was saying, hey, if we're gonna develop the tennis program, we need for them to play it, and not only that, the community utilizes them. And we can't have a district meet up here, because where can the kids dress? And I don't think we ever had a district tournament up here for that reason, because we can't invite them up here. So I think that at one time I mentioned that our kids are not doing this. They're doing more than what we do for them. So I feel like in some way we need to find some way of resurfacing and do whatever is needed for the tennis. I know the stadium needs a renovation, but we can still utilize it. We can still go to the games and utilize the bathrooms and everything else. But we can't find a place we don't have a place to get our kids to sit at the tennis court. So even though if I had a choice, I would go with the tennis courts for that reason, because we need it. There's no place for them to sit at. While the stadium out there has a bathroom and facilities will be utilized. Not the best, but they can stand another year, or maybe two, or whatever the case would be. And I appreciate the fact that the committee went ahead and came up with them, and I understand, and they had their reason, and I appreciate that, and I'll go with it. But I also think that we should do something that is needed now that we don't have, such as our fine arts building, if we were to get it going and all that type of thing. Like, for example, today, anytime that we want to honor our kids, they have to wait outside. We have to move them in one at a time, because our boardroom here is too small.
Yes.
And that would be an ideal situation for them to do, and people will be able to enjoy a place where everybody can go and not feel like, hey, we better not go because we won't find a seat and that type of thing. So again, I think we need to find some way of building those tennis courts.
Okay, this is what I'm hearing. I think everyone on the board is in agreement with the list as presented, $22,592,000. Say that one more time. $22,592,000 to be spent as discussed and decided by the Citizens Committee. And we are in the position with the fund balance as it is and what's been committed to spend that money, which will effectively slash our fund balance by about half. But we'll still be within TEA guidelines. So the question then is, considering that this is the list the committee has presented and that administration is going to recommend, you've thought and rethought and looked at the numbers and the process, and Dr. Rios is saying to go slower, to hold back $2.5 million. The question is, do we want to add to the $22,592,000? How much more?
$546,000.
$546,000 more for tennis court refurbishing.
It would be, yes, it would be for this item here, the $66,000 to resurface the existing tennis courts. And out of the $730,000, if I'm understanding correctly, it would strictly be for the restroom concession slash dressing room addition.
Okay, so the blue that you're pointing to, that was the only component of the committee that recommended, right? The two on the right, middle, and left?
Yeah, this group here, Mr. Casillas was the facilitator. They recommended that project. The ones in blue, this is the group that was the only group that recommended those projects. That's what that means.
I'm one of the four that suggested to recommend the.
Yes, ma'am, would you approach the bench, please?
I didn't want to. I didn't get my new school either.
Welcome, you are honored
I didn't
guest.
get my new school. No, I'm just one of the four that approved, that actually voted and wrote down that we wanted to get the tennis court worked on, and needs it desperately.
Dr. Keys, did you have something to say?
Yes, so, you told me that you forgot to put about Cody Warlaw. Well, before we approve, what exactly is going to Cody Warlaw that you have been working on, Mike?
It's going to be re-roofing, air conditioning, and some finish work. We also are going to have to do a restroom because all the restrooms are lower level and they don't meet handicap accessibility.
And is all that money already included here?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Dr. Keeson, to be entirely transparent about what we're gonna do at the old 8th grade, Cody Warlaw is part of the budget.
Okay.
Everything that Mr. Salinas mentioned is part of the budget. However, I will be very transparent with the board. When we allocated $7 million to that project, as the superintendent, I will direct the construction to begin with meeting the needs of the main building. Again, because there's a lot of forensics that need to take place, and we don't know what we're gonna find. So, although the money has been budgeted for Cody Warlaw, in our discussions with the architect that facilitated the process, we agreed that it would be prudent to take care of the building first before we moved into Cody Warlaw. Now, granted, if the funds within those $7 million permit everything that we discussed, then that's what we will do. If it doesn't, then we will come back to the board and say whether it was 250,000 or 500,000. But that is the process that we want to follow. And because you've been so passionate about Cody Warlaw, I don't want to be reviewing tonight's tape and say that we didn't bring it up today. I want to be clear about that, okay?
I remember me and Mr. Mesa several months back at this board meeting, we kind of advocated for 20 million as opposed to 25. Now we're caught somewhere in, Ms. Lozano, you had a point?
Yes, I also agree with your last statement. We did have some concerns about the 25 million. Now we're reaching even more, but very, very needed, services, facilities, upgrades, you name it, especially those that impact safety. Will there be plans to prioritize these, like which one goes first, which one goes second? Because say you get into the old Del Rio High School, which some people are calling it the 8th grade campus and the Del Rio Middle School, you're anticipating, for the guesstimates that you've received are 7 million. But who's to say it's not gonna be 8, 9? So if you're running all these projects at the same time, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's the plan.
There would be some spacing.
One at a time. I would hate to be down the road where we're in it too deep and we're really struggling financially to make ends meet.
Once the money's gone, the money's gone.
The money's gone.
Right.
I mean, I agree with what Mr. Overfelt and Mr. Mesa and Mr. Chavita have said about the tennis courts. I've been out there, they're pretty frightening. But there are many areas that need upgrades. So we could continue on and on and on and adding. But my fear is that we're gonna run out of money for the monies that were set aside for this particular purpose, these particular purposes, I should say.
What is the process? I mean, which would be first, and how long would it take?
In the next agenda item, depending on the action that y'all take, I'll be asking for permission for you to delegate authority to the superintendent to go out for an RFQ, request for qualifications. Once we move on selecting architects, and I say architects because of everything that's involved, I imagine there would be more than one. My plan is to have the architects come up with schematic designs that obviously would have a closer cost associated with them. As a superintendent, I'll be honest, I am eager to get started on the 2 larger projects, but which would be the renovation and the CTE magnet. Come up with clear cost. I have a lot of faith in the work that our architects have done already in coming up with the cost, just because based on their history, they've been accurate. And there is a contingency fund built into each one of these. Do I anticipate not having enough money? No. I do anticipate having to maybe borrow from one contingency fund to the next. For example, maybe the 8th grade, we won't use any of the contingency fund, but that contingency money that's left over, I might come to the board and say, hey, at the CT magnet, maybe we needed another couple $100,000, but that contingency money was already there from other projects. So I don't anticipate that we're gonna run out of money. However, before we get to that point, I anticipate having a lot of schematics designs for the different projects and having more accurate costs as we're moving forward. We're not gonna do all of the re-roofing at the same time. We're not gonna do any of the projects at the same time. I would expect that we would do the two larger projects simultaneously so that we can move forward and not have to wait a year or two before we begin the other one. However, I have every confidence that we will proceed with caution to make sure that we don't overspend and that we do come in on time and under budget.
On time and under budget.
That's the goal of every superintendent.
That's on the table.
It's always a challenge.
Mr. Chavita?
And I'm sure, Dr. Rios, that at the same time, once you have all your schematics, et cetera, you give us a timeline as to
Absolutely.
stages and as to when we start a program, 2 or 3 months from now, or whatever, another one, and like that, right?
Yes, sir.
That's scary.
Well,
But well worth it.
I don't think anybody is disputing what we want the future of the district to look like. And the showcasing of student talents, clearly in agreement by the board and by the committee. Putting CTE where it should be in terms of like, you know, getting people out of high school with the ability to earn. Also, the bigger question is the money, so we really need to decide, accept the list as it is, or tennis court add-on, or what's the consensus? I'll admit that I am the probably most conservative, cheapest, whatever you want to call me, person up here. Dr. Rios?
But I would say, let's go ahead and approve the list with the amendment.
The amendment would be roughly $500,000 more.
546,000, that's not including the 2 additional tennis courts.
See, remember,
Wait a minute.
remember a year ago, we said we couldn't do the field? We were able to do it, we're in good shape, the kids are enjoying it. So, we can do it.
Of course, $1.5 million and $23 million is.
Well, it's less than 500,000.
So if it's amended the way the trustees to my left and right are advocating, it would increase to what, $23 million?
Yes, sir, a little bit over 23 million.
We have 1.862 left.
It'd be 23,138,000.
Now,
Is that correct?
assuming you move forward on 2 big projects, like what you're saying, by the time we start to roll into the budget process, early summer, we'll have an idea of just how much money is being spent when we begin to budget for the coming year, correct? We certainly are not going to be spent through $23 million in the next 4 or 5 months. And I think that's where some of your concerns and mine are, right? How fast do we go through the money, building, projected future? Okay.
I think Ms. Valdez is working it out.
Leave it to the CFO.
Yes, she is.
Yes.
She's working it out.
She's doing her grocery list.
Are y'all ready for the recommendation, or what?
So,
Can we just clarify one more time, Mr. Salinas? What part of the tennis court projects
In other,
100%
in
clear.
other words, we're talking about, you're going to recommend this list, but there's the likelihood that it's going to be amended slightly in the recommendation. That's exactly what we want to know. What-
Yes, if I understood Mr. Overfeld correctly, it would be the 66,000 right here in resurfacing, and 480,000 out of the 730,000, which would be the restroom, concession, dressing room building, but not the two additional courts.
Throw baseball in there.
Sure.
It would be in between,
kind of
yes,
between?
it would be in between.
It'll be utilized.
Yes, the original thought, it would be shared by the baseball program and the tennis program. Yes, ma'am.
Perfect.
And that would add, instead of 730 and 66, instead of 796,000, it would only be 546,000 additional, which would bring it to 23,138,000.
Which leaves us with a $2 million addition.
Approximately, yes, sir.
There's a lot of contingencies there too, so we'll be fine.
Yes, there's,
Well, we could, we could get into one of the major projects, and by budget time, have a better idea financially. So with that adjustment,
We can re-amend the amendment afterwards.
yes. We can work with a contingency money. What's the percentage of contingency money, Mr. Brown? 10%. So we have an additional 2.5 in contingency, 2 million that's left over. So we have a little bit over $4 million total cushion.
Don't say that, we'll spend it.
No?
I have to be transparency.
I'm confident that we can get the projects done with the amount of money. Frankly, as a superintendent, what's more important for me tonight is that, one, that there's action, and two, that there's consensus so that we can move positively in doing what the committee has worked so hard to recommend.
everybody okay? Yes? Mr. Mesa? Okay.
Okay, Mrs. Valdez had handed this out to y'all along with the change. She'll have to modify this a little bit from the fund balance, but based on that, I will read the recommendation as amended. It's the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the Citizens Committee's district-wide construction, renovation, and repairs project list as amended, with a budget increase of $23,138,000 from general fund expenditure budget, and for the remaining ordinance funds of $1,862,000 to remain committed.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Overfelt has motion, Mr. Mesa has second. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to the committee.
Thank you to the committee, absolutely. Okay, that brings us to agenda item 12C, delegation of authority to superintendent and select architects and engineering firms under Professional Services Procurement Act. Dr. Rios, Mr. Salinas?
Yeah, the selection of architects and engineers is governed by the Professional Services Procurement Act, Government Code 2254.001, and everything that follows. So at this time, it's the recommendation of the administration that the San Felipe Del Rio CISD Board of Trustees move to delegate the selection of architectural and engineering firms required for professional services for construction of facilities and infrastructure under the district's $25 million construction program to the superintendent of schools, which will be funded with the $25 million in committed funds from the general fund balance.
Is there a motion to accept?
I so
Heard the recommendation. Mr. Chavita has motioned. Is there a second? Mr. Overfelt has second. All in favor by a show of hands? Unanimous, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Agenda Agenda item 13A, consideration to approve audit report for 12-13 fiscal year. Ms. Valdez is presenting. I believe there's a representative from the auditors as well.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Rios, board members. Ms. Garcia is helping me out by passing out the presentation, but before we begin with the presentation, Mr. Nathan Krupke from Bell Terrace, Bahacek, is here to discuss the auditor's opinion, and afterwards I will present the financial highlights. Excuse me.
Good evening. I will go through a couple of pages of your financial report and have the privilege of doing that for you tonight. If you'll turn to page number 4 of your financial report if you have it in front of you, otherwise it's okay as well. I will be rather brief. On page number 4, you'll find what's called the Independent Auditor's Report. This is why you have hired us as your auditor, to present our opinion of your financial statements. And what you'll find there in the multiple paragraphs and on the 3 pages, what we call an unmodified report. It means that we're giving you the highest level of assurance as auditors that your financial statements are free of material misstatement and that they have all the required disclosures as required by generally accepted accounting principles. It's a lot of technical jargon to basically say we're giving you the best news that we can as your auditor, that your financial statements are clean. And so that is great news for the district. The next page you're going to be taking a look at is on page number 20. And as you turn to page 20, this is your essentially your income statement for the year for the district, year ending August 31st, 2013. I want to pay particular attention to the far left column, which is your general fund, the main operating fund of the district. And you'll see in the top left of that column that the district had total revenues of $72.5 million. And as you make your way down, you'll see that the district had total expenditures of $70.5 million, which resulted in an ending fund balance of just under $50 million. One of the things that we look at is we compare your ending fund balance to your total expenditures, and as you just discussed about the construction that you have, included in that $50 million is $25 million for your construction. And so when you reduce your fund balance by that amount with the expected expenditure that you'll be having in the coming years, you have approximately 3.5 months worth of expenditures in your fund balance. The TEA recommends that you have between 2 and 3. We, as your auditor, we recommend that you have between 3 and 6. And really with school finance the way it is in the state, we recommend that you have as much as you can, given that you're taking care of your students. And so that is a good fund balance to have, and certainly you're aware of the excess that you have in regards to the committed fund balance within your total fund balance for the general fund. And the final page I'm going to take a look at is on page number 80, toward the back of your report. One of the things that we're required as your auditor is to perform many additional procedures related to what's called a single audit. As a result of receiving many federal funds through the TEA, we're required to perform a slew of compliance procedures. And you'll note there in the middle of page 80, I think it's 7 or 8 programs that we looked at specifically as it relates to the different compliance items, as well as just the overall laws and regulations that you must follow. And we're happy to report that what you'll see on that summary page is that there were no findings that we were required to report. There was no non-compliance related to those programs. And again, that's a testimony to your staff that they're doing a great job of staying in compliance. And having interviewed and looking at a different internal control within the district, you do have a great staff here at San Felipe. And so it was a pleasure performing your audit this year. This was our first year to perform the audit, and we hope that we have earned your trust to perform it again in future years. So that's all I have, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer that.
Questions for the auditors? I did like the format. I noticed it was a little bit different than previous auditors. So I do appreciate the new format, or maybe an enhanced format is a better way to phrase it.
The staff did a lot of work in preparing that format. That was not easy at all. So there were many hours that went into that, and they need to be appreciated for that.
Mr. Mesa?
Sir, could you, on page 80, just for information purposes, on number 8, it says that the threshold for distinguishing Type A and Type B programs was $553,000?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
What does that mean?
Yes.
What it means is we have to evaluate, if you were to turn over a couple of pages to page 83. On page 803, you'll see the total amount of federal funds that you received for the district, and you'll see that it's 18.5 million approximately. Anything that's over 10 million requires us to modify the size of the program that we look at. Generally, we always look at anything over 300,000, but in this case, since it's over 10, it gets modified to be a little bit greater than that, and as a result, it got modified to what it says here, about 550,000. And all that means is that it's a selection criteria for us to determine which program specifically we're going to look at. And so using that 550,000, we determined to look at these 7 or 8 programs that are listed here.
Okay.
I know you don't express opinion on the quality of internal controls, so is that something that your office as CFO that you periodically review?
Mr. Garabedian, the internal controls that have been established and set by the district were set by Dr. Ackerman, and we've continued that process.
Any questions? No? No question. Read all of them.
Okay, I'm going to start with the presentation.
Thank you, appreciate it. It's up to the board. Board wants to see it. This is. I read it down. I'm not kidding. You want me to call it?
The presentation is just to highlight the financial highlights that are on page 7 of the audit report. May I proceed? The financial highlights that were addressed in the 2013 audit are the district's net position, the general fund balance, the net change in fund balance, major special revenue fund, the district's internal service fund, the debt service fund, the 2004 bond proceeds fund, and the 2013 fiscal year tax collection rate. Beginning with the district's next net position, which is Exhibit A1 in your audit book, the net position as of August 31st, 2013 was $93,138,629, with an increase to prior year of $4,268,105. The district's net position report was previously referred to as the balance sheet. The latest updates in GASB statements have required that we change the name of this report. The statement of net position are the government-wide financial statements that report the information of the entire district. This statement would include all of your capital, all of your assets, your long-term outstanding debt, and it would be inclusive of your general fund, your debt service fund, your construction funds, the health insurance fund. This is inclusive of all the funds of the district. As we have been discussing, the general fund balance. The overall general fund balance for this fiscal year was $49,458,431, with an unassigned fund balance of $20,127,659, which is equivalent to 28.6% or 3.4 months. The bar in green is inclusive of the $28 million that we committed, which includes the $25 million for the construction projects that we just reviewed. The net change in fund balance. Here you can see what the net change in fund balance has been since 2009 to our current audit. In 2013, with our revenues over expenses were 2,110,563, plus other resources, would have resulted in an increase of a fund balance to the fund balance of 2,111,719. We did have a prior period adjustment that was posted against our fund balance, which generated a net change of a reduction of 168,979. And as mentioned earlier, you can see the growth in the fund balance was in 2011 of 8 million. In 2012 was almost 8 million, but your revenues over expenses was 4 million, and we had a prior period adjustment of 3.8 million of revenues that we had received in the past that were never recorded as revenue. And it took us about 2 years to clear that up. The general fund revenue for August 31st, 2013, total revenue for general fund, 72,590,324, broken up into the three categories, which are local, state, and federal. And as you can see, state foundation funds account for 76.2% of our general fund revenue. Our general expenditures were 70,479,761, and the instruction-related services, or the functional areas that are related to instruction, which are function group 10, function group 20, and function group 30, are all related to student support, school leadership, and instructional support, accounted for 78 cents of every dollar spent in the 2013 fiscal year. On a monthly basis, when we prepare the financials, functions 10 include function 11, 12, and 13, which is instruction, media or library, curriculum and instruction. Function 20 includes your school leadership, which are your principals and assistant principals. And function 30 would include extracurricular, transportation, food service, and counseling services. So of all of those functions that support our students, we spent 78 cents of every dollar in 2013. The Texas Cool Schools Grant was considered a major special revenue fund, and that was a grant that was awarded by the Comptroller State Energy Conservation Office. The total award was $1,121,399, and the campuses that benefited from this grant were Del Rio High School, Freshman, Ruben Chavita, and Buena Vista. The district's internal service fund, which is our health insurance fund, ended with a net position of $3,359,726. We did look at a 10-year history, and going back to 2005, the net position started at a negative 4,965. We did record a loss this year. However, we are researching that. We don't anticipate that it would be a recurring loss. We did experience high, above normal expenditures in the month of August. And in taking the fund balance into relation of the net change, we would have about a 10-year fund balance based on the loss that we have recorded in 2013. Our debt service fund has a fund balance of $1,065,932. And what we have here presented here is our historical tax rates for our debt service fund. The debt service fund is the fund where we account for the accumulation of property tax revenues for the payment of our long-term debt. Our District Financial Advisor, Southwest Securities, recommends that our fund balance remain around 25%, and we're at 24%. On the 2004 Bond Proceeds Fund, that fund was issued in two series. The first series was issued in 2006, which is the fund that we called 617. That ended with a fund balance of $2,631,385. And that fund balance right now is, a portion of that fund balance right now is committed to the Buena Vista project of the gym. The 2008 series is also, or what we called Fund 618, and it had a fund balance at the end of the year of $27,577. And this fund is what we used last year to pay for the Ruben Chavita projects. The 2013 tax collection rate, we ended with a rate of 99.43%. It is lower than last year's. However, our current year collections did increase to last year's. Now, this is one of the indicators for first, and when we report first, October 2014, the 3-year average is 98.9%, which is above the first requirement. Are there any questions on the financial highlights of the audit?
Mr. Mesa has a question.
Yes, sir.
Well, I first want to commend you and your department for a healthy audit and, no major findings. And also, I guess, the good grip that we have on the self-funded insurance, I guess Mr. Ralphs takes credit for that. But I know in past years, it seemed like there was an increase because of the losses and so there's a lot of good things happening with the self-funded health insurance. And I'm just, I guess, glad that your department is working great, and that the audit is clean, and we look forward to a healthy fund balance in the future with all these projects that are going on. There is a sense of, I guess, just anticipation of what's coming in the future years. As I mentioned, there's more needs than the money that we have in our fund balance, but I think every district is in the same position pretty much. I guess my worry to Dr. Rios is going to be, again, Buena Vista School, because, again, the overcrowding, and I mean, that's a major, major project. So I was glad to hear that we are putting together a committee for a strategic 5-year plan in regard to facilities, because something does need to be done, like ASAP. And I know that I wouldn't want patchwork, like redrawing the boundary lines and so forth and overcrowding some of the schools. I think there is a need for a major elementary, in the north side. But I just want to commend you again for a great job for your department, again, that you're doing. Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments about the audit? For the recommendation.
Right, before, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Ms. Douglas, our comptroller, for all of her hard work in putting this together and her dedication. She's very shy, but thank you, Laura. I'd also like to share with the board that we will be submitting our audit to GFOA to hopefully receive a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting. So I thank her and everybody for all the hard work. Thank you. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the audit report for the 2012-2013 fiscal year as presented.
For the recommendation, I so move to accept. Is there a second? Mr. Chavita has second. All in favor by a show of hands? Unanimous, motion carries. Brings us to agenda item 13B, consideration to approve 2014-15 budget goals and calendar.
Thank you. In compliance with the FASRAG, the budgetary process begins with a sound planning. and goals. The budget goals for the 2014-2015 budget process were included in your package, along with the budget calendar that lists the critical dates for preparation, submission, and reviewing of the budget. We have taken the budget goals and condensed them. However, they're still in line with our district goal of being good stewards of community resources. The district will strive to maintain a financial stability in all of the programs and operations of the district in preparing the budget. And we would provide adequate resources for instructional support, for staff, increase funding for technology, and maintaining a fund balance at a level of 3 months of our budgeted expenditures. Our calendar is inclusive of all the critical items needed for the budget. However, I'll highlight the main ones, which begins with tonight approving the budget goals and the budget calendar. There will be 1 week in February, which is the 18th through the 24th, where we will conduct budget training for campus budget teams and for administrators responsible for budget preparation. There is one new thing that we've added to our budget calendar, was that we're setting aside 2 weeks for one-on-one sessions that can be scheduled by anyone that is preparing a budget. That would include either myself, our budget coordinator, and Ms. Smith, depending on who they would need involved, in order to assist the campuses or the departments in budgeting their general fund and any federal funds that they may, their campus may receive or be allotted. The first budget workshop is planned for June 26, which is the last Thursday of June, which is consistent to how we've had them in the past. The second budget workshop would be on August 7th, following with the public hearing on August 21st, and then finalizing with our August 28th meeting, which would be for final amendments to our current year's budget. Are there any questions?
Questions? I like that you kind of streamlined your goals and the process. And just for a talking point, moving forward, much forward, I don't mean for what you're asking for tonight, but in the next year, 2 years, I'd be a little more comfortable with a fund balance bigger than 3.4 months. That's my opinion, moving much forward, but not any reflection of what you're asking for tonight, because that's set with what's already been projected.
I guess I have a question. I didn't.
Mr. Nissa?
I'm sorry?
Sorry to ask a question, but, Yanakani, when did we go? Because I remember us having 3 budget workshops in past years.
I'm sorry, sir. Since
Okay.
I've been here, they've only had 2. I can look back on the years of information that I have, but I'll look back at the board meetings.
We used to have 3.
Well, it's 2 budget workshops, and then the public hearing would be the 3 meetings that we've had since I've been here.
And the reason I ask is because, we have some new board members, and I mean, the budget process is to me, finance is the hardest thing to understand. And even though you might be in 7 years, you're still learning stuff about the budget. That's finances is that way, unless, you're a math major and accountant and so forth. But there's so many things that come to us at a budget workshop, everything from staffing patterns to facility needs and, requests from administrators for facility improvements and so forth. But I just, that's an area that is constantly changing, because even though we hear, like you're supposed to have 3 months, it varies. You go from district to district, and they say, well, that's what they say, but not really. As long as you have a fund balance, and yet, we continue hearing 2 to 3 months and so forth, and it's not a clear set thing when you go and research it. But, yeah, we'd like to be comfortable and, you know, sit with a healthy fund balance. But going back to the budget workshops, there's so much that is presented at each workshop that I think it's overwhelming for any recent board member, you know, I guess, new board member. You know, unless you have the experience that Dr. Keys has, sitting on the board for how many years now, Dr. Keys?
11.
11. Do finances come easy to you, or still a learning process?
Every year is a new process.
Because it's so involved. And I don't know, with all the projects that we have going on, I'm thinking like, should we have a third budget workshop? I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it, but
Well, how long we talked today about the 25 million? This is a fraction of our budget.
A budget workshop could work in the month of July, since we have one initiating in June, and then followed by the month of August. In the month of August, we meet almost on a weekly basis. One of them is for the budget workshop, the next one's for our regular meeting, and then for the public hearing, and then to adopt the final budget for the current year, amendments for the current year. The month of July does not have any workshops. And in the past, it was because there was no changes, since we didn't receive our certified values till the end of July. However, based on the wishes of the board, we could, that would be my first recommendation, unless there's other recommendations as to when to allot for another budget workshop.
Approving the calendar tonight doesn't preclude us from coming back and recommending additional budget workshops. I've worked in districts where we have a monthly budget workshop leading on up to the approval. I would recommend that we approve what's recommended tonight and that I have discussions with individual board members after Yana County recommends some dates and topics for the budgets, so that if it pleases the board, we would have those additional workshops. We could have a workshop on attendance and how the fluctuation in ADA would decrease or increase. We could have a budget workshop on athletics and how much money we're putting into athletics. We could have, or a combination thereof, to provide as much education as is needed to make an appropriate decision when we come to August. So if it's okay with board members, we'll move with the recommendation, and then I'll talk to y'all individually based on some topics and dates that Ms. Valdez and her staff put together for us. Would that be appropriate, Mr. President?
yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rios.
Anything else? Okay, the recommendation.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the budgetary goals and calendar to guide the 2014-2015 budget process.
For the recommendation, I so move to accept. Is there a second? Ms. Lozano has second. All in favor by a show of hands. Unanimous. Motion carries. Agenda item 13C, consideration to approve submittal of application for impact aid. Ms. English presents it.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Rios, board members. Under separate cover, you received a copy of the application for federal impact aid for year 2015. The deadline to submit this application is January 31st. We do submit this application every year. So if are there any questions in reference to the submission?
Get the recommendation.
Okay. It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the submittal of the application for grant under the Impact Aid Section 8003 for year 2015, and for the superintendent to sign the grant application.
For the recommendation, I so move to accept. Is there a second? Ms. Lozano has second. All in favor by a show of hands. It's unanimous. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brings us to agenda item 14, A, consideration to approve contracts.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, members of the board, and Dr. Rios. Tonight, under separate cover, you received a manila folder with 7 of our traditional contracts, that being the employment agreement, non-Chapter 21 contract, the one-year probationary contract, the multi-year term employment agreement, the continuing contract, the employment contract addendum for retiree hirees, the dual assignment 1 year, and the dual assignment term contract. These contracts traditionally and in the past have been submitted to Bob Schuman, our school district attorney, for review. Mr. Schuman and staff have recommended the proposals as indicated in your packet. You received 2 copies of each contract. The top contract was the tracked version, and the second contract was the clean version. On the tracked version, on 6 out of the 7, excluding the retire rehire addendum, the major change was to add misdemeanor A and B. That was a major change. There were a couple other slight edits in verbiage, but that was the major change to those 6 out of the 7. For the retire rehire addendum, there were several changes, but primarily in number 4. And it states the following: the district will pay the required surcharge associated with hiring employees retired under TRS. We have not been doing that, and it is our recommendation that we begin that process to encourage retirees to come back to our district. Secondly, and then it just states that again, the district will pay the surcharge directly to TRS and not to the employee. Additionally, just again for transparency, to make it perfectly clear that when we hire retiree, we place them at step 20 on our salary schedule, and that the employee will not be eligible for the annual salary increment. That has been our practice over the last several years. And again, that's in an effort to increase our talent pool. So at this time, those are the significant changes of those 7 contracts.
Questions for Dr. Mr. Mesa?
Sorry, Patty, but
Yes,
this change, especially with Class A, Class B misdemeanor, where is that coming from? Because it used to be just a felony.
Right. Bob Schuman, again, has looked at policy, and him and his staff, Rick Lopez, additionally, Joe Hoffer and Bob, have concurred that that's important to put in our contracts.
Is that like something coming across districts now? Do you know?
They didn't give an explanation for that, other than that they highly recommended that.
Dr. Rios, do you have any idea?
If I remember correctly, the discussion, and I'll probably have Mr. Salinas do some homework for us, but I believe in the policy update, it indicated or it included what she's alluded to in terms of the violations. But I'll definitely have Mr. Salinas go back and research, including talking to the attorneys to find out where that came from. But it's attached to policy. I don't recall if it was one of our legal updates or if it was something in the administrative code. But we'll get to that answer. I'll get Mr. Salinas on it tomorrow.
I just wonder because as it is, it's difficult to find teachers. And then, I mean, some of the misdemeanor cases, A and B, I mean, they could be minor.
And this is that they report it to their supervisor in a report system, which is what they do now. They do it within 3 days of any arrest of a felony or a conviction of, or an arrest, not a conviction, but an arrest involving moral turpitude.
All right, thank you.
Other questions?
Yes.
Yep, Mr.
On
Chair.
the charge, are we paying directly or we're paying it? Or we charge, in other words, what I'm asking is, the rehires have to pay it, right?
That's
pay-
correct.
So now we're paying it for them, or we're just paying the head of it?
We would like to start paying them, paying the TRS surcharge
Instead of them
directly.
paying them.
Yes,
So
sir.
it wouldn't come out of a check?
Absolutely.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
Other question? Okay, the recommendation?
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of the administration that the School Board of Trustees approve the contracts as presented this evening.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Ms. Lozano has motion, Mr. Chavita has second. All in favor, by a show of hands, unanimous?
Thank you.
Motion carries, thank you. Agenda item 15, technology services. There are no items for this meeting. That brings us to agenda item 16, closed session. It's now 9:14 PM, January 20th, 2014. The Board of Trustees will recess this open session and convene the closed meeting in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Subchapter D and E. We're allowed to do that under 551.071, 551.072, 551.073, 551.074, 551.076, 551.082, 551.084. Specifically tonight, pursuant to 551.074, discussion of personnel or to hear complaints against personnel. First item being discussion of personnel report to include the following: new hires, district vacancies, retirements, resignations. 2, discussion of salary adjustments to include the following justification: master's degree. 3, discussion of issuance of revised retire-rehire contract addendum to current employees. All final votes, actions, or decisions will be taken in open session. We're now in closed session. The Board of Trustees will now reconvene in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Subchapter D and E. No action was taken in closed session. Now that we're reconvened into open session, that brings us to agenda item 17. First item A, consideration to approve the personnel report to include the following: new hires, district vacancies, retirements, resignations.
Okay.
Dr. McNamara?
Yes, sir. Mr. Garabedian, members of the board, and Dr. Rios, the administration respectively recommends the following new hires for your consideration this evening. Ms. Dolomer Sanchez, mathematics teacher, Del Rio Freshman School. Rudy Allison Rodriguez, fifth grade teacher, Garfield Elementary. Philip M. Weldon, social studies teacher, Del Rio Freshman School. And Miss Erica Bradley, CT Family and Consumer Science teacher at Del Rio Freshman Campus.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Overfelt has motion, Mr. Chavita has second. All in favor, by a show of hands, unanimous, motion carries.
Thank you.
Agenda item 17B, consideration to approve salary adjustments to include the following justification: master's degree. Dr. McNamara?
Yes, sir. Mr. Garabedian, members of the board, and Dr. Rios, it is a recommendation of the administration that Miss Edith Ivada receive her master's stipend in the, as discussed in closed executive session.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Chavita has motion, Ms. Lozano has second. All in favor, by a show of hands, unanimous, motion carries.
Thank you.
And 17C, consideration to approve issuance of retire-rehire contract addendum to current employees.
Mr. Garabedian, members of the board, and Dr. Rios, it is a recommendation of the administration to issue our current retire-rehire employees the revised contract addendum as presented in closed executive session.
Heard the recommendation, and I so move to accept. Is there a second? Ms. Lozano has second. All in favor, by a show of hands, unanimous.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Have a great evening.
Thank you. Agenda item 18, superintendent's report. There's nothing for this meeting. Brings us to agenda item 19. No further business for this board. Remember Saturday, workshop.
10 o'clock, right?
10 o'clock this Saturday. Just a reminder of what I said earlier. No further business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yo. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Mr. Overfelt has motion. Ms. Haynes, second. All in favor by show of hands? Unanimous, motion carries, meeting adjourned.
Good night, y'all.